Isn't this a sports show?
Kiss my bum. Just go ahead. Please.
That did not sound good. Don't do that. It sounded tinny. Okay, you're done now.
Smooch it.
Almost entirely.
This is a good radio show. It's certainly a radio show.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I say it pretty frequently. I don't have a great memory, right? My best memories are Slim Chicken Space.
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Beards, how do you pee?
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Indeed it is, and it's also about 24 hours away from the Kansas City Chiefs' first home game of the 2021 NFL preseason. And that's exciting. We got that going for us, which is nice. Welcome into Almost Entirely Sports. I'm Joshua Brisco. Rudy Salazar is on the other side of the glass here, the in-studio glass. Beards McFly. Right, Rudy's on the other side of the plexiglass. Beards McFly on the other side of the hermetically sealed glass, which is how it needs to be.
He's a filthy boy.
He's just a filthy, filthy boy, that Beards McFly. We call him Filthy Beards McFly.
Yep.
And that's his old-timey baseball name. You know, like anytime Shohei Ohtani does something, or you get, who was the Diamondbacks pitcher that had a no-hitter in his first start? Rudy has the only chance of, I mean, sure.
I was almost going to say Tyler Chatham, but that's not him.
You were the only one that had a chance of getting that on their first try.
It starts with a T.
I believe you. I know you're also going to prove it. You're going to Google it, and that's, because the facts matter to you.
Tyler Gilbert.
You got Tyler?
I know it was a Tyler.
You got that it was a Tyler. That's pretty good.
Who's Tyler Chatham play for these days?
That's a great question that I don't know the answer to. Every time one of those...
Northwestern Mutual, financial advisor. I don't think Tyler Chatham plays baseball.
How many innings is he getting for the Northwestern Mutual Financial Advisors?
Funny enough, you know where he's a financial advisor in? Phoenix, Arizona.
All right, so he's out there.
Maybe he used to pitch.
Look, I mean, minor league baseball
Class
team
of
names
2022, left-handed pitcher, first baseman, Tyler Chatham. There we go.
Minor league baseball team names have gotten weirder and weirder over the years, right? If you said there was a team called the Northwest Mutual Financial Advisors that was like a high A-ball team in Wisconsin, I'd be like, yeah, sure.
Also,
yeah, why not?
UCLA screenwriter. Tyler's really just got
Branching
his hands.
out.
He's got his hands into every little cookie pot.
That's
Jar. Cookie
certainly
jar.
not what it's called. I mean, look, I think a cookie
Hands
pot
of multiple
sounds...
cookie jars.
Cookie pot sounds cuter. It sounds like Winnie the Pooh would get his hand stuck in a cookie pot, you know? But every time that, there's a baseball stat like that of Tyler or whatever, the bleep gets his first... It ends up... I've already forgotten again.
Gilbert.
Yep, it's gone. I mean, you keep saying... I hear you say Tyler Gilbert.
Like Gilbert.
I forgot it again. So whenever Tyler Gilbert Godfrey throws a no-hitter on his first time out, there's always the stats like, that's the first time that's happened since Jimmy Catches Fish with His Bare Hands Johnson did it in 1912.
He was the first since Theodore, Bumpus, and Bobo.
That's not a joke. What I said was a joke.
What I said was a fact.
What Rudy said was very real.
The pitchers' names were Theodore, Bumpus, and Bobo.
Do you have their full names there from that tweet?
Let me pull up.
If not, that's fine. I'm very close to getting.
It was the lead of a New York Post article.
If you could just find the full stat.
It's a great first sentence. There was Theodore, Bumpus, and Bobo. That's how the article starts.
It's beautiful.
Sounds like a nursery rhyme.
Now there's Tyler
It does.
Gilbert.
And then Tyler comes in and ruins it all. Because Theodore, Bumpus, and Bobo, great names for nursery rhyme. Tyler, it's kind of a name.
Well, Tyler's the normal person that gets greeted by the gnomes, Theodore, Bumpus, and Bobo.
I think that's exactly what's weird. I think you've nailed it. I think you have sharpened this down to a fine point.
That take Tyler on his magical adventure.
Okay, I think I've got the tweet here. And then we can talk about someone else whose name sounds like it comes out of a storybook and what that means, because I think it's very interesting.
Patrick Mahomes.
And then a few other things as well as we get up to the Chiefs' last preseason game, first one in Arrowhead.
I have the names here.
Tyler Gilbert joined Bobo Holloman, who had a no-hitter in his first career start in 1953.
Yep.
Bumpus Jones in October 1892. and Theodore Brittenstein, who did it in 1891.
I think it might be Breitenstein.
Berenstain Bears. Theodore, Bumpus, and Bobo. So anyway, Stinky Beards McFly, like he threw a no-hitter in his first start in 1887. It was just before they started keeping track of those sorts of things.
Yep.
I would
Crafty lefty, that
crafty
Stinky
for
Beards.
sure. Stinky Beards.
Crafty lefty for sure. It's
ton
not coming
of-
in with the heat.
No, absolutely not. If
Crafty.
if our various
Overcoming all the
listenerships,
odds.
if our various listenerships in different places,
Dropped on his head as a child. Everybody was stunned that he made it that far. But hey,
no hitter in his first start.
immediately sent down. Never made it back up. But hey.
If you want to tweet at us at JB Brisco, at Not That Rudy, at Beards McFly, at Sports Radio 810, or if you're in the comments section of any of the places, either the Sports Radio 810 Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, I would be very, very down to hear what our old school baseball nicknames would be, but I think that has to be crowdsourced. I don't think we can give those to ourselves. So anyone wants to chime in on that, I'd like to get that going. Also, I asked Beards this earlier, and Rudy, maybe you'll remember, we're doing another, can you remember the name of the person thing? But instead of the 1800s, this one is from Tuesday.
Tyler Chatham.
No. There was a Facebook commenter who suggested of my suit jacket searching, where I needed to try to figure out how I was going to find a suit jacket within my price range, but it wasn't from a Goodwill or a Savers like all my other suit jackets except for one. I just needed a sport coat, for a wedding this weekend, and really just for my life. And someone on Facebook, I remember it was a woman's name, and Beards had a guess.
Heidi.
Beards is saying Heidi. I can't remember, and I'm really sorry. I continue
I think
to
he
forget.
might be right though.
I continue to forget Theodore and Tyler's
Bumpus.
names, so I apologize to whoever it was that suggested Nordstrom Rack. But I went out there yesterday. Came in extremely clutch. A perfect suggestion from Facebook. Thank you very much to the Facebook commenter / listener who suggested going to an in-person Nordstrom Rack.
I think Beards is right though. I really think it was Heidi.
If it was Heidi, thank you, Heidi.
I think Beards nailed it.
I hope that is true, and if I've gotten it wrong, they're the only person who suggested that. Beards, can you just go find it in the comment section from Tuesday's show? Just go see if you can confirm that for us.
I can look.
Because I would like to make sure I've gotten that right. But I went out there yesterday, and I had a whole plan of like different places that I was gonna go if I needed to, but I went there first. And look, they still have some that are like on sale for $600, and that's not the life that I'm about currently. I'd like to be there someday, but that's not where I'm at right now. But they had all sorts of great options and good price ranges. I found one that fit just like immaculately. So a perfect suggestion there. And then also. S. Wallaby gets the first mention on Twitch. I did get a haircut today, and Ice Pyro asks about the blazer. I got that yesterday. So these last 2 days, I've kind of gotten my bleep together. Not in a major way, but in a minor way. I haven't fixed anything about myself inherently, but I feel pretty good about the fashion choices that I've made in the last 48 hours or so. Also, I've gotten 2 texts from the Drake, Jason Justice, about his favorite baseball player names. And I'm just going to assume, since it's an on-air bit, it's a text for on-air also.
Probably.
And if not, I've made worse mistakes. He wanted to nominate Urban Shocker and Razor Shines for great baseball names of all time.
Those are good baseball
They're
names.
great baseball names. Obviously, around here, we're partial to Dick Justice.
Yeah.
That's impossibly difficult to beat, specifically in this house, that we occupy right now. Not because of Jason Justice, but because of Dick Justice, the wiener dog mascot that we have that's over somewhere in the control room. So,
I have a personal favorite new baseball name. People are throwing out their suggestions.
Boy,
I'm
seeing a lot in the chat.
I've got 2 really good winners. Josh, the pineapple Brisco with an E.
Okay, no E, but the pineapple's pretty funny.
And then Beards 2077 McFly.
I like that a lot. I like Beards 2077 McFly.
I don't know if it's necessarily a good baseball name, but I like it. Which means it wins.
Caleb on Twitter has tweeted the Sultan of Swag, which is too kind,
Yeah.
but like.
I appreciate the compliment to me, but it's a little too much.
Like, I just saw a tweet about Mookie Betts returning to the lineup on my Twitter just now. You know, if someone wanted to call him that's probably got to be a Yankee, honestly.
Yeah, Sultan.
But I mean,
I
would take it over Joshua, brought to you by the letter E Brisco, which was a nice pyro suggestion.
I do like
on
also
Twitch.
just JT Josh Whitey Brisco.
I
Which
mean,
honestly, Whitey is. I mean, it's a baseball name.
There's been some great Whiteys in
Whitey
the history
Ford.
of baseball. That's exactly it. I drive a Ford now.
Josh
I was
Whitey
probably
drives a Ford Brisco.
That's
Rolls
probably
right off
it.
the tongue.
Yeah, I think that's. It's a little bit of a mouthful.
This is pretty good.
But we can figure it out.
Ice Pyro, Rudy, Geha, Salazar.
Rudy Salazar at GEHA Field.
At Geha
Or
Field.
Geha Field, as you
Yeah.
would say, or
Yeah.
GEH, as Clark Hunt has said a couple of times. Still, much to my absolute shock.
The A is silent, so when you spell it out, you don't
Oh.
necessarily have to also say it when you spell it out.
Can it be Rudy
how it
Geha Salazar? Can you make it a little more southern? Do you mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can make that work. Like, I'm from the country, so like
Yeah.
it can pass.
I want to talk about a couple things. This preseason game is going to be weird, and we're like so close to real actual football that I feel like most of us are probably salivating for like an actual game and not just one more preseason game. But I will say, I enjoyed the last two preseason games, and also I've been doing a little mini pregame show action here and not been doing postgame for the preseason. So it's been kind of interesting to be able to. I'm still taking notes because I'm a crazy person that will always be obsessively noting the things that are happening. It's preseason for me.
The players are in preseason. You're in preseason. You're getting your feel for not just how you're going to take notes, but also the format, right?
Mental
Like,
reps.
It
It's
is-
the mental reps.
You got to get in the mood because you don't want week one to come and now you're rusty.
Yeah,
and
that's
now
a great
you
point.
missed something in the second quarter and you spend the whole week trying to talk about it and you can't because you missed it.
Because I just missed a touchdown, and I was like, why is that? That must be a typo. That clearly they didn't score there. But I've actually kind of enjoyed, Seth Kaiser brought up this point of like, I think he tweeted about it during the last game of like, we can watch the games and kind of evaluate things and enjoy them, but not have to stress about the result. And I have enjoyed it for that reason. I've enjoyed, just being able to watch Chiefs football on my screen again. And I'm going to enjoy the game tomorrow as well. But I am glad there's not going to be a fourth one. Three is a pretty good number. 2 might be the right number. I might be bored by halftime. At this point, I don't really. I feel like it would be silly to trust Andy Reid saying that they're going to play a full half of the starters tomorrow. They could with some of them because they have some extra time to rehabilitate with basically a full week off, going into the first game. But also, like, Darrell Williams has been in the concussion protocol. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think his ankle's going to be fine. But, like,
It doesn't make sense
those
to
two
play
guys
him.
are not going to play on Friday.
Yeah.
My bigger concern, and they held out Tyreek Hill in game 2, so like the Chiefs know. I'm not saying anything that they haven't thought about. I'm just kind of connecting the dots. I don't know that it makes a whole lot of sense to say, yeah, we got all these dudes banged up, but let's keep putting guys out there because you're always going to have little nagging injuries that are going to find guys over the course of a game. And if Orlando Brown gets a minor ankle sprain playing into the second quarter, I mean, it's going to be that would be one of the, I think, a very small number of players on a given team who could move the line pretty significantly in a football game, because all of a sudden you have Mike Rimmers or Lucas Niang playing left tackle and the other one is playing right tackle. So we played the audio on Tuesday of Eric Bieniemy talking about the advantages of playing in the preseason and talking about communication and how all communication is good communication and how even if it's bad, even if it is communication that does not quite work or it's communication that does not fully have the right content, you just have to be communicating at all times. And for them to have a chance to do that during the preseason, so if Creed Humphrey makes a bad call, or if Lucas Niang misses somebody or whatever, it's not as big a deal because it's a preseason game. Then you make that mistake so you don't make that mistake again whenever the game counts. I do see the logic there. I'm also a little bit of a worrier whenever it comes to guys getting hurt in meaningless games. If you get hurt in a regular season game, that's the job, right? Like, you're out there, you have to play in the regular season while you're healthy, and if you get hurt, it's super unfortunate, but it can happen.
It's football.
It's just a part. It's the worst part of the game. I am just afraid that the stacking number of little things could take us to an unpleasant place if they do play all of these guys in the regular season, or in this preseason game on Friday. My guess is that they want to get the offensive line working again, and I bet we see. Andy Reid said in the in his press conference yesterday, he's like, "Yeah, we'll play a half," but then he also said something along the lines of, we want to get the guys a couple of snaps or a couple of reps with the offensive line. I bet we see something that looks more like the first preseason game where Mahomes plays a drive and then Henne comes out behind that first-team offensive line for a little while longer, and that we might be seeing backups by the second quarter, which would be fine by me.
Yeah, it is a. I mean, one, this whole game is unique in many ways. One, it's the first time we've had the third preseason game be the final preseason game. We're used to this being the game where the starters really play a lot. We obviously know that's not going to happen, but it's right. Like the formula for the 3 preseason games hasn't been created yet, right?
Yeah.
Like we had the formula for the 4 when you had 4. We knew basically exactly what was going to happen. Game 1 through game 4. We don't know exactly what the Chiefs like. We just we have no history to look back on. But the Chiefs have an offensive line with really only one guy who you're like, yeah, he probably doesn't need the work. Because you have 3 rookies from center to right tackle, and you have a left tackle who's been in the NFL, but is now in a completely new offense, blocking for a completely new quarterback at a position he has not played a lot of. He has played there before, but not a lot of. And so, also, all 5 are new starters.
Yep.
So it's not like, well, you have a couple guys who have been here and know this system really well, and they can kind of help. It is 5 new guys. Now, again, Tooney's and part of it's the position. Part of it's just him. He's the one guy where I'm just like, Tooney's fine, right? Like
yep.
If they decided, and again, it doesn't work this way, that Tooney doesn't need to play because he's ready, I'd be fine with it. The problem with that is you need Tooney to play because you need Creed and Orlando Brown to work with him.
Right.
So, it doesn't work that way, but, he's the one guy where you're like, he really doesn't need the work. Everybody else, I guess, how much they needed the work, I don't know. Like, how much is playing 1 quarter of this game really benefit them in the regular season? I have no way to put a number on that.
And
it maybe speeds up the process, but it is impossible to know. But it is unique because you have 5 just brand new guys on an offensive line, and 3 of them are rookies.
And you might be able to move that needle some in the preseason, but you're not going to get it the whole way there. They're going to be growing pains in the regular season.
Absolutely.
You just want to have as few of those as possible. And between training camp and the preseason, I think they're going to be pretty okay in that regard.
It might take a couple games to really get into a flow, but I mean certainly by the end of the season, I think by the middle of the season, we're basically going to just be looking at the offensive line and not necessarily as this monstrous world-beating offensive line, but as an offensive line that we're never really complaining about, right? They may not be the best I don't know if they're going to be the best offensive line in football, but I feel pretty confident I'm not going to be sitting there just watching Patrick Mahomes have to run for his life on every play, or the Chiefs not be able to pick up 1 yard on 3rd and 1. We talked about this. I don't want to see the Chiefs run the ball 30 times a game. But what I do want to see them do is when they decide to run the ball on 3rd and 1, just to pick up a yard, right?
Just have it work.
When they do decide to run the ball, be effective. Do not run often, but when you do it successfully. And I think with this offensive line, I think the job will almost always get done. There'll obviously be mess ups here and there, but I think overall, quarter of the way into the season, that's kind of how we'll be looking at the offensive line. That's my guess.
And you'd like to be at a place where you are talking about a dominant unit
For sure.
partway through the year, but probably not from the gate. You mentioned that, we don't have a formula for a 3 preseason game schedule yet. Obviously, with the previous one being essentially a little bit in the first game of the starters, a little more in the second game. In the third preseason game, starters play the first half and then usually come out at halftime.
Yeah.
And then the fourth preseason game, they maybe don't play at all. James Palmer of the NFL Network tweeted this out earlier today. I thought it was super interesting. Here are the projected starting quarterbacks who have not played in the preseason for their team. These are projected starters for 2021 who have not played in the preseason this year, okay? Here's the list. Matt Ryan, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Carson Wentz, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, Ryan Tannehill. Is that list longer than you guys expected? Because I was surprised.
Now Joe Burrow is going to play in the final preseason game.
Dak and Burrow and Wentz all have direct injury things playing into that.
And Ryan Tannehill is in COVID protocol.
And so he wasn't before, though.
No, not before.
He will not play.
I just mean he is definitely not playing in the final game. There's no chance because of COVID.
I don't think that anybody other than Burrow. I don't know. Have we heard about Dak? Burrow and Dak could potentially go. I would be surprised if Wentz did. Although I know he's ahead of schedule. Whatever that ridiculous 2 to 15 week schedule return was for him and Quentin Nelson. But regardless, the thing there is that there are 10 guys, 10 to 12, let's say, of these quarterbacks who are being held out of the preseason just because their coaches have seen, and also specifically, I know Burrow is a little bit of both. It's a little bit of protect him and a little bit of he's still coming back.
Yeah.
But if you are the Bengals, you have seen really recently what happens if one freak play happens and it knocks out your franchise quarterback for a year.
McCarthy did say it is unlikely he will play. Dak Prescott will play in the preseason. So
it's even more unlikely that McCarthy will play in the preseason.
Yes.
I forgot he was their coach.
He's got a beard now, man.
Yeah. He's out here smashing watermelons
He looks more authoritative with a little kind of salt and pepper beard he's got working for him now. It's a good rustic look. But he is still their head coach.
And then Kellen Mond is their 22-year-old offensive coordinator.
Dude, you said Kellen Mond, and I thought, is he the backup there? And I forgot. No, you're right. He is the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he is still.
He's not 22.
No, he's not 22. But he's young.
But seriously,
Kellen Mond.
You said
not Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond's the quarterback.
Kellen Mond is 22.
Yeah, not Kellen Mond. It's
all right.
Kellen Moore, right? Isn't that Kellen Moore?
Not Kellen. No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Kellen Moore. Christopher Moore played at BYU and is or not BYU, Boise State, and is backup quarterback for the Cowboys, now the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. Kellen Mond is the backup quarterback for the Vikings, possibly.
I knew he was the backup for the Vikings. Okay, my brain was working okay with what you said there.
Yeah. Who is 22?
He is 22.
Kellen Moore is 33.
Kellen Mond is the backup quarterback for the Vikings.
Yes.
Kellen Moore
was a backup quarterback in the NFL.
Yes, he was at
Boise State. And then is now
the Cowboys offensive coordinator.
With the Cowboys.
Holy smokes, we went on a journey. How old is he?
33.
Okay. Still pretty young.
Yeah, played 6 years he could still be an NFL quarterback.
Maybe he does get a helmet whenever, if Dak gets hurt again. Don't they still have...
That's how they have Ben DiNucci.
Ben DiNucci. I could not remember. I knew it was a fun name who got a little bit of time last year.
Who's apparently on Google is trending right now.
Is he?
Yeah. Is
that a good thing?
I don't know. I don't see anything...
It's not for anything bad, right?
I don't see anything crazy. My guess is people are just...
They also have Gilbert Garrett.
He might have been cut, maybe?
From SMU.
I see a headline, DiNucci exits battle for QB2 with poor play. Cooper Rush improves.
God, the quarterback depth chart in Dallas is Dak Prescott. Just purely names. Just judge the names here. Dak Prescott, Gilbert Garrett, Ben DiNucci, Cooper Rush. There's not a better name depth chart.
Cooper Rush sounds like he's a Texas quarterback.
Yeah.
Garrett Gilbert was a quarterback at Texas. Cooper Rush was Northern Illinois.
Cooper Rush feels like...
Knew it was the MAC.
Cooper Rush should be a starting quarterback somewhere, for sure.
Maybe for the Broncos.
I think on ourlads.com, OURLADS.com. They do updated depth charts, so they're the first place I go whenever I need a depth chart. ESPN is kind of clunky. The team ones aren't always updated, so Ourlads does a really good job.
Very good.
But they also, I think, it appears that if someone is on the COVID-19 list, they put their name in pink and then it says COVID-19, but it's after their first name. It goes last name, first name. So like right now, they're number 2 receiver probably right now behind Amari Cooper, not Michael Gallup, but the young one they drafted that wears number 88.
Oh, CD Lamb.
Well, our lads would say CD COVID-19 Lamb, which is a risky choice for a middle name, I think. Then you have Connor COVID-19 Williams at guard.
Solid nickname.
That is now. If you find an old-timey baseball player with the nickname COVID-19, then the conspiracy theories really start flying. What did they know? It's just, but it's in that case, it was actually just like, I don't know. It was some sort of, it was short for something, and he wore number 19.
Yeah.
And and Shohei Ohtani is the first player since Malik COVID-19 Hooker to have 10 strikeouts and hit 2 home runs in the same game. Anyhow. So I am pretty confident that we're going to continue to see the Chiefs players in their ones get work in the preseason because that's just what Andy Reid does. Like that will be his philosophy. We've talked about this many times over many years on this show. Andy Reid is the most old school, new school, or the most new school, old school coach in football.
Yep.
And that I think that is not a criticism. It is just what he is. Somebody one time on Twitter.
It's hard to argue fully with it, right? Like, I mean, like here's the Andy Reid's won a Super Bowl, but like you can have disagreements with him. For people who are like, you can't he won a Super Bowl. What do you know? No. Andy Reid will tell you he makes plenty of mistakes. He makes bad decisions. But like it's his way has worked very well.
There was someone I think it was on Twitter at one point, and I might see if I can find the specific tweet during the break here, but they asked something along the lines of, what percentage is Andy Reid an old school football, hand in the dirt, stubborn football coach? And what percentage is he a wizard? And I've thought about that many times. Right? It's a good question because I think it's more of the offensive wizard than old school football coach, but he is both. I
was going to say maybe 60-40 to 65-35. 65-35 feels more right because there's quite a bit of old school football coach in there, but it's still an overwhelming amount of new wizard, offensive wizard.
I think I went 70-30 in favor of the new school stuff.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And I think that still works.
If I'm at 65-35, you're at 70-30. I mean, we're very close. It's probably right around there.
I think it's in that range. I think about that question every once in a while because it's phrased so brilliantly.
As long as Andy Reid is like the head coach of this team, the Chiefs are going to be going somewhere for training camp, most likely St. Joe, and Patrick Mahomes is going to play in the preseason. It does appear that we are moving to a trend, especially of starting quarterbacks not playing in the preseason.
Yep.
And it's understandable when you think about the money that they're given and the investment that's been put into them. You never want to see them get hurt. You really don't want to see them get hurt in the preseason.
Yep.
That'll just never be Andy Reid's, method. It'll just never be his style.
Speaking of quarterbacks who aren't starting, the Broncos made a decision since we last had an almost entirely sports. I want to talk about that whenever we come back.
Want more almost entirely sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
Defense wins championships, run the ball, establish the run, and ground and pound, baby. Wear down defenses.
With Joshua Brisco.
Box scores matter. Hashtag box scores matter. Kirk Cousins is actually good. Put your hand in the dirt.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Here's a stat from the Twitch chat before we talk about the Broncos quarterback situation. S. Wallaby on Twitch, I did not know this, and S. Wallaby's a regular, so I'm going to trust that this is true and not made up.
Josh, I love our Twitch. My iPad is currently volume still on. I don't know if it came out over there, but it was on. Anyways, Josh,
how are you gonna criticize someone else?
I love our Twitch chat. Twitch chat's fun. I've watched enough Twitch channels to know never trust the chat.
Ours are different. As Wallaby says, Patrick Mahomes needs just 180 yards to pass Matthew Stafford for the most passing yards through a player's first 50 games in NFL history.
Okay, I actually believe that because literally every game Patrick Mahomes breaks one of those records.
True. Also needs just one touchdown to pass Dan Marino for the most passing touchdowns through a player's first 50 games. Mahomes has played 46 games. That last part, I just want to make sure everyone heard that last part. 180 yards for the most passing yards through 50 games. One touchdown for the most passing touchdowns through 50 games. Mahomes has played 46 games. He has 4 games to put up 181 in a tutty.
You know, like usually every team has the thing that
Ridiculous.
You make fun of broadcasters because it gets talked about, like one specific thing. So it was like, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, did you know he went to Harvard, right?
What?
Stunning.
When are you going to tell me that Trevor Siemian was tall? I guess he still is.
Trevor Siemian. Was Trevor Siemian tall?
Wasn't he?
All
those dudes were tall.
I think Trevor Siemian was the exception, which is why he never really got a chance.
I think Trevor Siemian was also tall.
Trevor Siemian.
Paxton Lynch was taller.
Paxton Lynch was tall. Trevor Siemian was 6'3".
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm saying. That's why I feel like he was the oddball because he was the one quarterback. He was just he was a short boy. He was just a little short 6'3" boy.
Paxton Lynch is 6'7".
Yeah. And then Brock Osweiler was like 6'8" or whatever. But anyways, every game, the broadcast, there is a Patrick Mahomes just broke, passing yards and touchdowns in a player. It's like first blank games.
And it's going to happen forever.
Yeah. He's going to have all the records.
Speaking of Broncos quarterbacks who aren't 6'7", they made the call. Vic Fangio made the call in their quarterback battle, and I think it's really interesting for a number of reasons. So Teddy Bridgewater won it, and he played really well in the preseason, and he played well in training camp, allegedly, and he's been consistent and accurate and, has gone 16 of 19 for 18 yards or whatever it is that he's doing out there. And also, I like Teddy Bridgewater. I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with Teddy Bridgewater. I'm not sure that... the Chiefs could win 12 games with Teddy Bridgewater in a 17-game season. I don't think the Broncos can, but the Broncos do have a really good roster. They do. We talked to Aaron Schatz, Football Outsiders, last week, and they're bullish on the Broncos and the Raiders and kind of bearish on the Chargers. The Broncos have a good roster, and I think that Vic Fangio, I'm not surprised at all that this is the call that they made. Vic Fangio is a defensive coach who believes in his defense and the weapons that Teddy Bridgewater has to throw to. And so I get it. If you said, hey, the Broncos, we got a gun to your head. It's going to be a long time, I guess, because we're waiting for the Broncos to finish their season. But the Broncos have to win 9 games for you to survive after this season. I would say please start Teddy Bridgewater. And if it doesn't work out, you can break glass and go to Drew Luck if you want. If you said you need to find yourself 12 wins somehow, or you need to figure out what you've got here, I would start Drew Lock. I don't think they're going to win. They would win 12 games with Drew Lock. I think that they're going to be a better team with Bridgewater than they would have been with Lock. But there's a little bit of that sort of, it's a sloppy comparison, but the Alex Smithy sort of safe quarterback who can manage the game. And maybe it's not even Alex Smith's last year in Kansas City. Maybe it's the first couple years of Alex Smith. And they don't have Andy Reid's offense and all of that. Again, it's a bit of a sloppy comparison. But Teddy Bridgewater can play NFL quarterback competently.
Yep.
Now, also, the Panthers paid for him to go away so they could have the honor of starting Sam Darnold. Just so you get a feel of where the Panthers were at with Teddy Bridgewater. If you think that I'm trying to tell you that actually the Broncos are going to be a threat for the division, I don't think that they will be. And I think that you should keep in mind what the Panthers did, again, to get themselves away from Teddy Bridgewater for the sake of Sam Darnold.
After signing him to like a 3-year deal,
They gave him
it's
some money.
Like there was a financial investment into Teddy Bridgewater,
And they're still paying it
Yeah.
for him to start for the Broncos. I think he's got a significantly larger
says
cap hit
something.
for the Panthers this year than he does for the Broncos.
yeah, and like that says something on how a team views you, right? Like how much you're willing to pay a player to not play for you.
And also, the Broncos chose Bridgewater over Drew Lock.
Yeah.
And that is what I think is probably the biggest thing here. I think the Drew Lock experiment is probably officially over now
Yeah.
in Denver. Maybe the season goes poorly. Maybe Bridgewater gets hurt. Maybe he just doesn't play very well, and they try Drew Lock mid-season or something. There's a chance of any of that. I mean, it's possible. But I think that if you're the Broncos front office, you'd actually probably like to start with Drew Lock, and then if he's terrible for 8 games, you just say, all right, Teddy, go for it. Because you really need to know confidently what do you have in Drew Lock. If you're Vic Fangio, I don't think for a second that Vic Fangio's job is like unimpeachably safe right now. If the Broncos stink this year, even if the defense is good, even if it doesn't appear to be Vic Fangio's fault, I don't think that they would hesitate to say, we're going to bring somebody in who we're going to have be a quarterback whisperer for whoever we take with the 5th overall pick or wherever they end up if they are that kind of disappointing. But I do think that it's very, very hard to look at the Bridgewater choice as anything other than the end of them even really truly evaluating Drew Lock. And again, if you're the front office, I wouldn't have minded another season of finding out if there's any chance that maybe Locke is just taking an extra second to figure it all out to, be the best that he can actually be. I think there's a chance of that happening. Some quarterbacks are not immediately excellent. Again, I'm not betting on that with Locke, but I think that's a feasible, reasonable thing to go, you know what, I'm not ready to call it yet. But if you're Vic Fangio and this team needs to actually win football games and be good for you to keep your job and you're a defensive coach, you want to be carried by your defense and have simply competent, safe quarterback play. I think what is best for Fangio and what is best for the 2021 Broncos is not the same as what is probably best for the 2022 Broncos. And also, they should have drafted Justin Fields. Think about that right now. Patrick Surtain Jr. is going to be a good football player in all likelihood. I get it.
Hopefully he'll be Chief one day like his dad. Like 7 years into his career, come on down, Patrick Surtain Jr.
Wouldn't hurt.
I'll buy your jersey too.
Wouldn't hurt my feelings any.
And then Ty Law Jr., if you're out there, maybe we'll just get those two.
Bring
We've
him
done
in.
this. Ty Law Jr. does not exist. Like we did a whole bit on this where I tried to find Ty Law Jr. Doesn't exist.
There is a Tyrann Mathieu Jr. He's just very small right now. It's going to be a little
So
longer.
is the Honey Badger.
Very young right now. So here's this is the worst thing for the Broncos. Okay, so all of that laid out, you understand where I'm coming from on. You'd like to fully evaluate Drew Lock a little more. You want to win games right now. Bridgewater's been good. I get it. They have essentially said, we are done wondering if Drew Lock can be our starting quarterback. And we've decided that with a preseason game left ahead of the 2021 season. If you could have made that call on Drew Lock a couple months sooner, which you probably could have, you could have taken Justin Fields. And he could have sat behind Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe you try to flip Drew Lock at the draft for a fifth or a sixth round pick to a team. I mean, hell, the Panthers traded for Sam Darnold.
Mhm.
Maybe you find somebody that says that they think they could get something out of Drew Lock. If the Chiefs decided that Drew Lock was going to be their third quarterback who's developed behind Mahomes, then he's the backup eventually whenever Chad Henne retires in like 2045, that would be fine with me. Drew Lock is going to be in the league for a while. Mitch Trubisky looked really good as a backup for the Bills a couple days ago in the preseason game.
Trubisky season, baby.
Drew Lock is going to stay in the league. Or don't go get Teddy Bridgewater and just draft a quarterback. Let him compete with Drew Lock and then make that decision. Because the only place, again, the Broncos with a really good roster, they might be able, if everything goes well, maybe they're fighting for a wild card spot late into the season. I think that is possible. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible. But if you have one of those young quarterbacks, one of the rookies on that rookie contract, again, you refresh your timeline there, and then you're making the decision that the Bears are making right now, but instead of Andy Dalton, it's either Bridgewater or Drew Lock. You can let one of those guys trot out there for the first 4 weeks, or you could go straight to Justin Fields. But either way, the Broncos are not going to win anything meaningful with either Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock. That's the dividing factor here that I think they have totally let themselves down on.
Yeah, the reality is, and this is where you find, why it's so important to have that relationship between a front office and the coach, because again, what the coaches want, right, and what the GMs want, those don't always line up. The reality is the Denver has nothing to gain really by playing Teddy Bridgewater. While I don't think Drew Lock is a starting NFL quarterback, he's at least done some things in the NFL that excite you and is young enough. The best move for the Broncos going forward is just, Drew, here you go. This is your season, and you have this is your chance to show that you belong as a starter in the league. And maybe he rises and develops and becomes great, and maybe he sucks, and you're with a top 7 draft pick again.
Yep.
Certainly top 10 with the chance to move up and go get your guy, which obviously they're in that position this year. It's the reason why signing guys like Teddy Bridgewater
Well
is
said.
never the route to go as a starter.
Yep.
He is the perfect backup quarterback to go sign. If you wanted him around to help Drew Lock, great. Teddy Bridgewater is a smart guy who's been in this league. He knows what he's doing. He can help out a young quarterback. But playing the Teddy Bridgewater for a year does nothing except maybe, but for the franchise,
Vic Fangio's job.
but it might give Vic Fangio one more year, which is one more year making NFL head coaching money. Which, if you're a head coach, and any NFL athlete, any NFL head coach, you have to have this weird amount of confidence to get to those positions. Otherwise, you just don't get there.
Mm-hmm.
And in Vic Fangio's mind, it's, if I can buy one more year, we can get this turned around. And I believe he truly believes that. Even though I think his strategy, his line of reasoning will never fully be, it will never work in a way that really matters. It may constantly win them 9 games, 10 games, but that doesn't matter. If you're a Broncos fan, you don't want that. But that is...
If you can get Vic Fangio running a defense with Justin Fields doing all pro stuff offensively,
Now, all of a
it
sudden
suddenly
we're talking.
matters very much.
Yeah.
But they don't have Justin Fields, which is really too bad that they couldn't have, been able to make that choice. Oh, no. Yeah, they did pass over him. Yeah, okay, no, this one's on them.
Hey, he's a smart defensive mind. It's just he needed somebody to step up and be like, hey, we're drafting a quarterback here. We'll handle the offensive brain thinking.
And instead, they went with Teddy Bridgewater. As Rudy said, Teddy Bridgewater.
At JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, at Not That Rudy, at Sports Radio 810. Just do it already. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I did not have in the show notes talk about how clean Rudy's butt was all pandemic, but here we are.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I neglected to mention within the first hour of the show what the next 2 hours of the show are going to look like. Whenever we come back, we'll do one of my favorite recurring bits, which is shot clock reviews. We've got shot clock reviews at 8, and then at 9 tonight we'll talk to Craig Stout of KC Sports Network about all sorts of things. I mean, the defensive stuff that we'll talk about with him obviously will be there. But there's also a couple other things that have come up in my conversations with him off air over the last, just today even, kind of planning what we're going to talk about tonight. We may have some extra special Renaissance man Craig Stout stuff at 9 tonight. We'll see. We'll see when we get there. But Craig at 9, on the other side of this upcoming break, we'll do shot clock reviews. Some things that we've watched, read, played, done since the last edition of shot clock reviews, but 24 seconds at a time. Rudy's got to add some things to his list during the break.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB. SportsCenter.
Good evening, I'm Steve Lennox. Sources telling ESPN's Adam Schefter today that quarterback Ryan Tannehill is one of 9 Tennessee Titans players and coaches to test positive for COVID-19. Head coach Mike Vrabel tested positive for the coronavirus on Sunday. Patriots and Giants held a joint practice today. Will conclude the preseason against each other on Sunday. Cam Newton was back at practice for the Patriots on Thursday after he missed the previous 3 days of practice due to COVID protocols. Rookie quarterback Mac Jones did take first-team reps with Newton out for New England. ESPN NFL analyst Louis Riddick says don't be surprised on whoever Bill Belichick goes with as the team's starting quarterback.
I don't know if the past couple of days before Cam got back that would be the thing that would sway Bill towards, making that tremendous leap to start a rookie week 1. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Either way that he goes with it, I would not be surprised. And I don't think we should be surprised if, in fact, he does go with his rookie first rounder.
Louis Riddick today on SportsCenter. Saquon Barkley did participate in drills today for the Giants. NHL news, Flyers have signed center Sean Couturier to an 8-year extension worth $62 million. Couturier, 18 goals and 23 assists for the Flyers this past season. Golf, Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, Sam Burns, all at 8 under par after the opening round of the BMW Championship in Baltimore, Maryland.
Hey, it's Alan Hahn, and Friday on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin, we'll tell you the one division that can actually get all 4 teams in the playoffs. That's Friday on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
How do you feel about being called a barnacle, Beards?
It's very strange.
It feels right, though. I am the great cruise ship sailing across the 7 seas.
With Joshua Brisco.
Well, it's more like a dinghy with a leaky basement floor, whatever.
With a leaky basement?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that your joke was heading in a pretty good direction there, so I just sort of gave you the floor, and then you said that the dinghy has a leaky basement.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We'll talk Chiefs football with Craig Stout of KC Sports Network in an hour. But right now, some other things that we've watched, done, played over the course of the last month. This feels like a good monthly bit, and I bet we haven't done it in August. So maybe this is our August edition of Shot Clock Reviews. If you're new to the show or new to the bit, here's how it works. We keep a running list of things that we watch, play, eat, listen to, enjoy, any other verb that may apply to something that you can do or experience for the first time, whatever. And we keep a running list of those things. And then we have 24 seconds, an NBA shot clock that you will hear momentarily. I can never remember if there's music and shot clock or if it's just shot clock.
Nope, just shot clock.
Shot clock.
I think the first time we did it with both, and we decided it was too much.
Because I think what it is I really think there should be music, but I think it would also probably be too much. You could go really quiet with the music
Not
and then
really,
loud
though.
with the shot
No,
clock.
it all comes out of the same thing. Well, I could put it in a different thing, but do you want to try it and see?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, yes, but I don't want to make you try it at the beginning of the segment. I know what that will lead to, which is chaos.
I mean, it's ready.
Oh boy.
With both
I don't-
setups.
Yeah, I don't think you want this.
I feel like
He's up to something.
No, I'm not.
I can hear it in his voice. He is up to something. I don't think you want this.
let's do shot clock reviews.
Okay, he's not up to something actually.
See, I told you.
I mean, you can't get defensive that you
His
didn't
voice
do some
sounded
wacky bleep.
like there was like he was up to something. Like I thought maybe we were gonna get that Frankenstein center field song.
I could see his face, so I was pretty confident it
Yeah.
was going to be legitimate. But I understand why you would doubt him, because sometimes he does that on purpose.
Frankenstein center field.
I haven't brought one of those back out in a while. The Royals don't deserve it.
They've been winning.
Right.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. I was gonna say
Yeah.
they've actually been pretty
Yeah, good point.
That makes sense then.
Let's do some reviews. I'm going to go first because I got more than you guys do, but we're going to figure it out. We got a handful of things that we can Push through. You know what, Rudy? You've actually got more things on your list now than Beards
added
does.
a couple things,
I saw that. Look at that. We got a whole.
It's very superhero-y.
I
I guess.
do. I can't. Here's the other thing I can never remember. Do I need to say? I'll say yes. I'll say which one
You say what they are.
I will say that for everyone all the time.
Ignore my voice crack.
What was it? Yeah, I'll say
You
what they
say
are.
what
Beards.
they are.
Why don't you just pull
You.
that music down a little bit farther, all right? Just so we can make sure we can hear the shot clock nice and loud.
Pretty good Beards impression.
Thank you. That's a married man.
That's how you know he's married. The voice. The voice is the first thing to go.
I would like to review Catan for the Nintendo Switch. It is a board game version, or is a digital version of the famous Euro board game, Settlers of Catan. There is a version that you can get on Switch, presumably other consoles as well, that does a very good game of giving you smart AIs to play against, and the campaign mode is incredible because it gives you different situations, different maps, different scarcities and resources. If you like Settlers of Catan, but your family and friends won't play it with you anymore because you take it too seriously, this is a 9 out of 10. You have to pay for some more stuff in a DLC that just takes the 1 point away from me. I wanted to explain why it was only a 9, because I have enjoyed it immensely.
Never played Catan.
It's good.
It's great.
It's fun.
I would like to play that with anyone ever, basically, including robots. Rudy, tell me about Zelda Skyward Sword. This is the Switch remake, right?
Yeah, so this is a remake of a game that came out, 10, 15 years ago. But anyways, it's a
Wii game.
Yeah, it's, for the Wii, it's a Switch remake. I think part of the reason why they remade it is if you've seen the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, there's Up in the Sky. Well, Skyward Sword takes place up in the sky. It's the first in the Zelda timeline where everybody lives above the clouds and then come below the clouds, and odds are Breath of the Wild 2 will tie in with it. It's very fun. It's a 7 out of 10.
Beards, I just saw one that I hadn't noticed on your list before.
Okay.
And I'm really, genuinely on the edge of my seat to know what you think of the show on Netflix. It's a dating show, but everybody's in a very, realistic sort of mascot costume. Think Masked Singer for dating. Netflix's Sexy Beasts.
Rebecca put this on just because we were looking something.
Don't blame her.
No, it was.
Don't blame her.
It's absurd. Is the best way to describe it, because obviously you're sitting there watching there's one person and then they have 3 people to try and choose from. Everybody's in masks. So, there was one girl that had a panda outfit and trying to see if she liked a guy that was a rhino or whatever. And it's funny. It's absurd because it's just, you've got all these crazy outfits.
I'm going to give you an offensive rebound and extra ones.
Okay.
I just want to
Cool.
know. I didn't know you'd watch this.
And they'll, the panda, for example, she was legitimately crazy, it seems like, for a little bit of that. Anyway, just the absurdity of it all, and you're just watching all these people do things and then, try and kiss while also wearing these giant masks. There's only 6 episodes and they're 20 minutes a piece, so it's short and it's just comedic. So I'd give it a 6 out of 10.
So which one of us is going to review the fact that Beards likes Netflix dating shows?
That is a huge development for this show.
Yeah.
Seriously, Beards, if
I'm
I
stunned.
if I would have seen this sooner, I would have said, take this off your shot clock review so we can talk about it for a segment.
Stunned.
I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, and I'm also not saying this is your yum,
It's
Beards.
Beards is yum. Beards,
I'm not
it's fine that you're
trying to
yum.
yuck anybody's yum.
It's good comedy,
It's
that's
fine
about it.
that it's your yum.
That's totally fine.
It's just surprising.
That's not.
It's surprising myself.
Rudy and I are saying, well, you disagreed with Rudy for a second, and I don't think you wanted to. I'm just saying that I saw the trailer for that show, and I just don't know that I could do it. I don't know that I could take it. It just seems like a lot.
Oh, it is.
I would like to talk about the iOS version of the fun Euro board game Ticket to Ride. This is a fun board game that none of my friends or family will play with me anymore because I take it too seriously. You build a whole bunch of trains from one destination to another, and you get the cards that say what your destination has to be. It's a very simple game conceptually, much easier to get on board with, no pun intended, but I'll take it, than you would for Settlers of Catan. The AI is not great. The iOS version of it is not nearly as good as the Catan version because there's not really a campaign mode. Still enjoyed it, though, as an iOS game. I'll give it a good 6.5 out of 10.
Never heard of it.
It is a good board game. Catan is a great board game.
Yeah.
Rudy, why don't you tell me about the Adventure Zone? This is the graphic novels, right?
Yes. Yep.
The first 3 Adventure Zone.
Yeah, so I've had them for a
Books.
while, but I finally read them. The Adventure Zone, a podcast by the McElroy brothers and their father, is one of my favorite podcasts I've ever listened to. It is truly a joy. I recommend it. But they created graphic novels based off their first Balance arc. They do a really good job of condensing it all into a book that tells the story, but it's also slightly different. It's not just like the podcast. It is a very good 8 out of 10. Yeah, 9 out of 10. I really enjoy it. Yeah.
Good. I
Fourth
own, I
volume
think, all of
just
them.
came out.
I don't
Like
have
within
the
the
fourth one
last
yet.
week, probably.
I'm going to go ahead and hop back in because I have a few more, and this one's a little bit out of left field. I'd like to talk about the iOS version of the famous board game Rummikub. So I've just been kind of missing board games lately, and Rummikub is a challenging
Can't
one
tell.
because this one's one that my dad always would win, and then I just have a very competitive family, and so I think I needed some time away from it for a while. This one you actually play against other actual human beings. The turns are timed, which is mostly good, can be kind of annoying. It's a pretty fair representation of the original game, though. I think it's a 8 out of 10 if you don't mind dealing with some ads for the sake of the format.
Never heard of it.
Really?
Never heard of it.
All 3 of those are great. Those are the end of my digital versions of tactile games.
Is
but
your next one just a regular board game?
No.
'Cause I'm looking at it, and if you told me this was a board game, I believe it.
It's not. My next one is not. But God, the Catan. I would like to be playing Catan right now. I'm realizing. I just love it.
I mean, you can.
I don't have my Switch with me, and it'd definitely make for challenging radio. Beards, tell me
Yes,
about
Because the
your
normal radio is not challenging for our listeners.
Fair enough. Why? I don't know what this is. Tell me about Vivid Seats.
You know, it's the ticket app. or whatever.
Oh.
So
What?
Rebecca and I had decided we were going to go to Rose game with our family. Got tickets through Vivid Seats like 3 months ago.
Oh, this might be. Okay, go ahead.
Day of, we're like, let's check and make sure they're there. Tickets aren't there in the email. Can't pull them up. So we call them, put them on hold, finally talk to somebody. They're like, oh, sure, we'll email you to expect.
They're not a sponsor, are they?
Email the tickets back. We only get half of them. I'm using my shot clock review.
Your
So-
rebound. Offensive rebound.
Well, they say, give it like an hour or whatever, and then your tickets will get there. So we get to the stadium, look at the email. We only get half the tickets. So we call them back. 15 minutes later, finally talk to somebody. And they're like, okay, I'm going to put you on hold. They put us on hold for 30 minutes, then hang up on us. So we have to go to the Royals ticket people and talk to them. Fortunately, they were great. They were helpful. They were a 10 out of 10. Vivid Seats, 1 out of 10.
I've never heard of Vivid Seats.
There's a reason.
And I just
If only this company
really
had
hope.
a ticket sponsor.
I really hope that we don't have anything to do with that company
I don't think we do.
here as this
I'm
company.
going to use Beards as an example of why you should always go to Tickets for Less. Ticketsforless.com.
Yes, a much better experience.
Yep.
Tickets for less.
And you don't have to pay those stupid fees.
I like what you just did there, Beard, because I don't think we've done a whole lot of negative shot clock reviews. I think it's good for the format. I think that's a good idea. I'll go again because I got a bunch of them. I mentioned these whenever I bought them, and this is a review of one of those things you might see in an Instagram ad.
Oh, I know.
Jambies.
I know what these are.
These are basically like lounge shorts. They've got sort of a underwear, sort of a boxer waistband. They're very soft and they have pockets. They are a legitimately like really good sort of lounging short. I wear them at home very frequently because I got 2 pair and I got Renee a pair because you could get 3 for like $90. And that's sort of the twist there. You can get some pretty comfortable shorts a whole lot cheaper than that. But these are very comfortable and they do have pockets and I do enjoy them. 6.5 out of 10 price being considered.
I've been getting Instagram ads for them too.
They're good. They're just a little pricey. That's all. Rudy, I'd like a 24-second version of something that we talked about last show. Tell me about cookie butter and jelly and how that's become a part of your life.
Cookie butter's just, it's delicious. It was bought for me. I never heard of it, never had it before. And it's set in my cupboard for cupboards. That's a weird, it sounds weird, sorry. For a couple months, and I finally got to it, and it is, it's fantastic. It's great. And I looked at the nutrition things. Not that different compared to peanut butter.
Really?
Definitely not better than peanut butter. It's not good for you, but it's not that different.
You can get the Biscoff kind at Target, according to Google. The Biscoff brand one.
So I found on Amazon. The cookie butter is a 10 out of 10. I found on Amazon the Trader Joe's brand, but a crunchy kind. And a crunchy cookie butter sounds great.
Oh, is the one that you have creamy?
No, it's creamy.
The crunchy one's great.
And I'm a crunchy peanut butter guy.
Crunchy one is great. Let me talk about another video game that I played that's not board game related. I have finally, for the first time in my life, purchased a copy of FIFA. I have FIFA 21 on the Switch. I'll say a couple things about it. One is it seems pretty evident that literally, not just how Madden does it figuratively, FIFA's like up front with this is the same game from 2019, it's just with new rosters, but it's the only version that was on Switch. It was like $5. Creative player is pretty good, playing as Dick Justice going throughout my career. I have learned that I would get a lot of yellow cards the way that I like to play, but I also understand offsides almost perfectly now. It's a fun game that I'm happy to pick up every once in a while. It's a 6 out of 10.
22, like the big thing on FIFA 22 is they just completely revamped career mode. And so it's just supposed to be a lot better.
I would enjoy that. The career mode has its lulls,
for sure.
I would say,
for sure,
in the current form. Beards, you're probably up next. Give me 24 good seconds on F-Boy Island.
So we talked about this kind of before. I just turned it on because I kind of liked the concept of just like trying to figure out who is who or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just kind of dumb entertainment for the most part. I will say though, the production stuff that they do on that show is amazing, and it is very self-aware on how dumb it is. And so like whenever a guy gets eliminated or whatever, and they're one of the F-Boys, they go to Limbo, and they will have segments or whatever where they'll get to Limbo with the host, Nikki Glazer, who's excellent in the show. And she's like doing therapy with them and whatever. And it's just great and it's funny. And it's like a 6.5 out of 10.
I can live with that. I'm good with that. I would like to talk about... I'll talk about I Think You Should Leave Season 2. Second season of the Netflix sketch comedy show hosted by Tim Robinson. It is, the hot dog meme? We're all trying to find out who did this, and it's the guy in the full hot dog costume. You've seen it. We're all trying to figure out who did this. He's in the hot dog costume. Rudy keeps looking at me like he doesn't know what I'm talking about. Google hot dog costume meme. You're going to find it in a second. It is impeccable, incredibly weird comedy. If you've got the stomach or the interest I'll take my offensive rebound.
I took up a lot of your time.
If you end up going through with an interest in something very unique and very weird and very, very funny in a way that not many other things are, this show does it impeccably well. Season 1 is very good. Season 2 might be better. Also, once you've watched, you'll start seeing references to it all over Twitter because Twitter's a big fan of the show, generally speaking. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 as long as that's something that you're ready for. Have you seen the meme, Rudy?
I don't think so.
What? Google hot dog meme.
I mean, like, I'm looking at the meme, but I don't think I've seen it before this moment.
The one that we're all trying to find out who did this?
Yeah. We're all trying to find the guy who did this. From I think you should, and then it goes da 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 da.
You haven't?
I don't think so.
Okay. It just seems impossible.
I'm just saying, I don't think so.
I don't think I've seen it either.
What? I've tweeted it so many times.
No, I have you muted.
That's a great point. Rudy, why don't you go ahead and tell me about the latest information on the new Pokemon games?
Yeah, so they earlier this or last week they had a new Pokemon Presents. I had more information. I think especially I'm really excited for the remix of Diamond and Pearl. I think it looks fantastic. I think I like it. That's the game I think I'm really most excited about. I just think it looks great. I think it just looks like a traditional Pokemon game that looks gorgeous, that looks fun. That I'm excited, and comes out the week of Thanksgiving, so got plenty of time to play it when it comes out. They look like they'll be a fun 8 out of 10.
Okay, I was wondering if we're going to get to a number. I got nervous for a second.
I had to think.
That the bid had fallen apart.
Yeah, I just had to think.
Let me tell you about a podcast called Tanis. Tanis. It's been coming out over the course of years. There's 5 full seasons that are out. I don't know if or when season 6 is coming, but it is made as if it's sort of a true crime investigation show, but it is a work of fiction. It's weird, it's spooky, it's got great writing, great acting, great production value. If any of those things interest you from what I just laid out there, I would absolutely recommend listening to it. It's an 8 out of 10, and I hope season 6 comes out soon. I just listened to season 5, by the way. I listened to 4 seasons basically as they came out. Binge season 5 last like a couple weeks. Really good. Worth listening to if you like a little spooky fiction, which I don't really.
I was just saying, it's not really your thing.
No, it's just a very
But I
good
guess
podcast.
because
though.
at the very least it's an audio. Like I don't think
Yeah.
you like looking at spooky things
I don't.
much, but hearing spooky things probably isn't as much of a bother.
Limetown was very
Very good.
popular.
Yep.
It's very much in a similar vein to
Okay.
Limetown.
I liked
is what I would
Limetown.
say. It's Limetown, but with a little more. I don't know. I'm afraid that if I say more information, it might get kind of spoilery because I can't remember where we were at after like season 1 of that. But it's very
Limetown
good.
was good. I enjoyed Limetown.
Beards, I'm just curious what brand new cherry flavor means.
So it is a mini series that's on Netflix that Rebecca was watching. I was just kind of watching on to the
Oh
side.
yeah, sure. Blame Rebecca
It's
again.
based off a book. It's
It's
kind
got
of
all these hot furries.
It's about this girl that's like she's a director or whatever in her 20s or whatever. She goes to LA. Her movie gets stolen from her by this actual director or producer that lives there. It's also like this weird horror / thriller stuff going on in the background with it. It's the acting is good, the story is weird, and it feels like it's trying.
Third one.
Whatever.
Hang it a second.
It feels like it's trying to be weird just for the sake of being weird sometimes, and I don't really care for that. Also, if it's just a mini series, then what the hell is with the ending of it, where it feels like it needs more seasons? It's fine, but like, I mean, if it continues after this, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. If it's just what we got, it's like a 5 out of 10. It's fine.
Do you know the first cast member who is credited here?
Yes.
I'm guessing you've seen her
Yes.
her name in the credits.
Yes.
Do you know this woman's name?
I don't remember the first name.
It is Rosa Salazar.
She's good.
R. Salazar, starring in this work. Rudy, your thoughts? Any relation?
Maybe.
Thank you,
A lot
Rudy.
of Salazars out there.
A lot of Salazar. That's a great point.
A lot of Salazars. I have family that lives in California who I haven't really met. Yeah, that's a fact.
Could be a relation. then.
There are Salazar's family members that live in Cali who I do not know.
Calling for the ball again. I got a review for the HBO animated Harley Quinn show.
Ooh.
I had seen this recommended by a
Yeah.
number of people, and I watched a bunch of it. Renee was out of town for a couple of days last week, or I think it was last week. I don't know. And so I just watched like the first half of the first season. There's a lot more to go, but it's been really good. It just sort of fit what I was looking for, which is something fun to watch. It's got a storyline that you're kind of invested in, but it's not super duper heavy. The acting and voice acting is all great, including the man who voiced Buster in Arrested Development, or played Buster in Arrested Development.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
Tony Hale.
He voices one of the members of Harley Quinn's kind of crew.
Tony Hale's great.
He's very
Ooh.
funny.
Yeah.
This is not a review. Did you know that he also was the voice of the Joker in like an anime Batman,
I did
I
not.
think
ninja
so.
Batman thing?
I think so.
Go watch the trailer sometime just to hear him voice the Joker briefly. It works.
It makes
it's
sense.
spooky. It works.
Heard him on a podcast recently. He's very funny.
Oh, Harley Quinn HBO show. 8 out of 10, I think, right now. It's been very good. Rudy, cannot wait to figure out exactly how much you've gotten into My
Oof.
Brother, and Me.
So it's this new podcast I found out about
Yeah.
that nobody's like really ever mentioned to me before. Which
True.
is, hey, Josh, you should check it out. It's
I'll look
fantastic.
into it.
So Mabim My Brother, and Me is a podcast started by the McElroy brothers. It is an advice show for the modern era.
Modern.
I'm about 60 episodes in, and oh boy, I'm enjoying it so much. It is
Good.
bringing me all the joy that the Adventure Zone brought to me when I first started listening to it. I'm just happy to have a McElroy brother adventure that I can binge listen to. It is
Yes.
a perfect 10 out of 10.
It really is.
It's
It's like
so good.
530 episodes at this point,
Yeah.
and I have listened to all of them,
I was gonna
many
like
of them twice.
I was gonna like mention my favorite bits, but there's so many
Too
good
many.
ones. I have a hard time just like remembering.
Yeah,
It's just so good.
it's a perfect podcast.
It's so good.
Perfect.
It's perfect.
I think I still have more than okay. I'd like to talk about canned tuna. I don't remember what spawned this. I think we didn't have a whole lot of like deli meat at the house, and I was like, you know what, we haven't had in a while. I haven't had like a tuna salad sandwich in a little bit. Maybe that's all those Subway stories about maybe real tuna, maybe fake tuna got me going. But it lasts forever, and I really like fish, generally speaking, and I also like tuna salad.
Tuna's
I like
good.
making it myself though, because I don't like it to be super mayonnaise-y, and I like to use some pickle juice in there. But every cracked open can of canned tuna is another canvas to impart your favorite flavors on. And I've been out doing that almost every day for the last week. I'm big into canned tuna at this point. 9 out of 10.
I do not remember the last time I've had tuna, but I've never anytime I eat tuna, I'm happy.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's got
I enjoy
100%
tuna.
hit rate.
Yeah. I've never
Make a little
hated,
tuna salad more often.
never hated eating tuna.
Making the tuna salad yourself. You could pick what you put in that and everything to cater to your favorite flavors. It's great.
Tuna on some crackers. Oh boy.
Renee got some
Good snack.
Ritz crackers for exactly that that purpose. Oh, it's so good. Hey,
good.
Beards, I haven't watched it. What did you think of Netflix's Malice at the Palace
You watch
documentary?
so much Netflix.
A lot of Netflix for Beards.
So it very
Rebecca was just watching it.
It's produced by Jermaine O'Neal, I think is one of the producers on it. So it's him, it's Steven Jackson, it's Ron Artest, and then a lot of Reggie Miller as well. There's some other Pacers executives or whatever that's in it. It's very short. And I wish it had more people on the Pistons side. Ben Wallace talks for a little bit, but he's only in there for a minute or two. And it's really short. It's only an hour or whatever long. It misses a lot, I feel like. I'm glad it exists. It's pretty to look at, but I want 2.5 hours. I want a 30 for 30 on this. I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
Just largely because of the scope.
Yeah.
Being kind of narrow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, 1 hour.
It focuses
8
way,
minutes.
not way too much because they're the most important people in it, but it's it focuses way more on the Pacers players than it does the Pistons. And I'd like to hear from Rasheed Wallace, who
sure.
charged into the stands, but was there as the peacekeeper and trying to break everything up. Stuff like that. Chauncey Billups, I'd like to hear from him. It just doesn't have those guys in it, and that kind of sucks.
I have a theory, and I have no idea if there's anything behind this. Obviously, Chauncey Billups is now a coach in the NBA. Rasheed Wallace just signed, became an assistant coach in Memphis. Maybe they felt like it just wasn't good publicity for them.
They
to
didn't
talk
want,
about
they didn't
that,
want
right?
any of their quotes to get run around the internet.
Now,
as
I know-
That would be my best thought. I'm just surprised off the top of my head. I just assumed that they would be involved in that.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
I said, it feels like it's because Jermaine O'Neal is one of the guys that produced this. It feels more like it's
It's tilted towards that side.
tilted more towards the Pacer side of it. And while again, they're very important people in this, they're the main ones.
For sure.
I want more perspective on it.
Yeah. Rudy, following up on that, what did you think of the new Spider-Man trailer?
It was exciting. We've been hearing rumors about the movie for the better part of the last year, and so the trailer actually, I was surprised to be caught off guard by a lot of things in it, and just the overall style of how the movie seems like it's going to be. I'm very excited just to see all them bringing back pieces from all the old Spider-Man movies, which I grew up on. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is iconic to me, and William Dafoe's in it now, so that's fun. I thought the trailer was great. It was
Is it
9
William
out of
Dafoe
10.
or Willem Dafoe?
William Dafoe.
It's Willem.
Willem?
Willem.
Oh, is it Willem?
Willem.
I always just said William.
Willem Dafoe.
I never realized that.
Yeah.
I
true.
bet I've seen his name. Hundreds of times, and I just always read it as William.
I just
Funny
double
what
checked and
the-
I was right.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah,
I got
yeah.
nervous that maybe I was wrong. It started to scare me a little bit.
It's funny what the brain sees. The brain sees what it wants to see.
Maybe you learned that at one point, and
No,
then
I don't think I ever did.
you, Willem Div forgot.
He was always a William to me.
I'd like to go. I need to go again. I need to go again. Let me talk about Borderlands 3.
Yeah.
I finally played the first hour of it. I chose the robot guy with the pets. So I like playing with an assistant, sort of, and I like the Sentry from Borderlands 2 I enjoyed. It was all right. My computer was struggling a little bit. I was trying to play it on my laptop, which is like a gaming laptop, but not really. And the graphical experience was not ideal. I wasn't immediately hooked by the story. Do I need to have a rebound again?
Sure.
Give me another rebound. Let me try to
Probably.
unpack this a little bit.
Really,
I think that if I eventually play it either on a console or someday play it on a beefier computer, I'll probably enjoy it more. The shooting is good. The customizations have increased. I love the customizations early on. It was nice to have a new Borderlands thing in my life, but it didn't immediately grip me, unlike something that I'll mention in a little while. So I'm happy to have it, but I think right now it's a 6 out of 10 for that first hour and a half of gameplay or so.
Impromptu review. No, I'm going to review Borderlands 3 because
That's great. Do it.
So, I really enjoyed it. Also, you picked the correct character to play as because he's my favorite.
He seems great.
The story won't improve too much. There are a couple planets that are better than others. Its general consensus is not as good story as the second one, which is excellent.
Yeah.
Some of the DLC is really good though.
I have heard that.
I feel like the gameplay is way better than it was in the second one. I can't go back to the second one now. It's too slow. This game also chucks legendaries at you more than the other ones do, and that's kind of good.
Yeah.
I like some of those guns, so I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. I enjoy it.
Impromptu Borderlands 3 review.
Have you played it?
Never played it.
Okay. I'm going to take this time back. So here's my retort or whatever, Beards. I think that it is a game, for me at least, that makes me wish I had a PS5 or the new Xbox or something. Because I think if I was sitting on the couch playing it with a controller, I think I would probably have a little more of an appetite for some of this stuff that gets a little bit tedious trying to grind through on the computer. Any other? I yield my time to the senator.
That sounds fair. Guess who's got one, by the way?
What? Did you get one now finally?
No.
Oh.
No.
You mean you have a?
I have a console that you can play it on.
But
Oh,
it's not
I thought
a
you were
new-
saying
it's
you got a
not one.
PS5.
No.
Oh.
Okay.
I got excited
No,
for it.
not yet.
Yeah. So I might get there eventually. Okay. Well, Beards just did another review. Back to Rudy. I have not watched any of Marvel's What If series. What have you thought so far?
So I've seen 2 episodes. Third episode came out on Wednesday, but I have not seen it yet. I also don't know what the third episode's about. But it is a try not to spoil anything. It is it is created off of what happens in the events of Loki. It is it's a different universe, telling stories that are obviously very similar to the movies that we saw, but where something different happens that causes a whole butterfly effect that has led to. I'll do my rebound. That leads to Captain America becoming Captain Carter. That leads to Black Panther becoming Star-Lord. They're fun to see these different
animated
stories.
too, right?
Yeah, it's all animated. It's fun to see these stories. They're very action-packed. It's just 25 minutes of constant action because they are condensing 2-hour movies in 25 minutes. So it does feel rushed, but it is entertaining. But some of them I think some of the episodes I think will be misses. I think some of the episodes will be great. I would say it's probably like a 6.5 out of 10. I think each episode is going to vary, right? I think some episodes will be 9s out of 10s. I think some will be like 5 out of 10s.
Let's go, Beards. You've got at this point. I always start doing math in my head. I'm saving I'm saving your top one there for your last review.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My top one?
Yeah,
What's my top
first one on there.
That was my first one.
I've highlighted it. You see it now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I want you
Hang
to
on,
close
give me
with-
1 second. The music's about 10, so let me just
Oh,
get it.
you just loop it around whenever you see fit.
Yeah, there we go.
Tell me about Invincible.
So, there we go. I had to find the thing. Superhero show that is on Amazon. It's also animated. It's based off a comic book series that I might actually end up reading after this. It's about this kid whose dad is Superman, and he ends up basically Superman. He ends up getting his powers now. So, like, his dad's kind of training him while also, like, joining some other, like, some superhero leagues that are around. It goes in interesting ways past that. The voice acting is excellent in this. J.K. Simmons plays his dad, and J.K. Simmons is awesome.
Does he play the character that looks kind of like J.K. Simmons?
Maybe.
He's got a lot of famous people.
There are a lot of good names in this, and voice acting's excellent. I'd give it like an 8.5 out of 10. Yeah. Mark Hamill's in it for a couple episodes. Sandra Oh plays his mom. Stephen Yoon's the main guy. He's
Gillian Jacobs.
He's from
Community.
Walking Dead. I can't remember the character's
Did you
name.
give it a number?
Yeah, 8.5 out of 10.
All right.
It's very good.
Oh, he was Glenn. He was
There
the
we
dude who
go.
got his face bashed in with the baseball bat.
I never watched Walking Dead.
You
That's
had
fine.
to, you know what I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah, I know.
It was like
Somebody was gonna get their face beat out.
Everybody got mad because like they showed a guy get his face beat in.
Right.
He's the guy who got his face beat in.
Also, very quickly, if you plan on watching the show, it is very bloody, just letting you know.
But it's like anime.
It is animated.
So.
Yes.
Here's my second to last review. I keep trying to get into Breath of the Wild. I gave it another like hour or two last night. We didn't have a show last night. So I listened to the latest episode of The Besties that was talking about Breath of the Wild again. And I finally got to a point where I was able to enter an area of the map that was not originally opened up. And it did. And also listening to the Besties episode, I thought kind of helped me reconsider some things.
For sure.
I get it. And it's fun when I'm playing it. But I'm usually done after like an hour. I don't really know why that is, but maybe it's just because it's one of those games that needs 300 hours to see everything.
There's just a lot.
And I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to suddenly find 300 hours during football season to play more Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that's been my
What's out of
biggest.
10?
My experience has been a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Not that that's the grade of the entire game, but my experience has been a 7. Maybe a 6.
I've always like
Thank you, Beards.
greatly enjoyed every moment I played of that game, but it's a big game, and I just don't have the time for games like that, unfortunately. I hope to like one day I'm just gonna like take a week off and just like do nothing but play that.
Yeah.
But like I just finding time to do that.
Tough.
It's not easy.
It's tough. Rudy, bring me your last review here. Marvel binge mode. Or
Yeah,
binge mode Marvel.
so girlfriend
Podcast.
wanted to start watching the Marvel movies, so I was like told I'd watch them with them, and I was just, we've only watched 2 of them so far, but I don't know, I knew binge mode did a Marvel deal, and I like Jason Concepcion, so I decided, hey, I'll listen to this after I watch each movie again. I really like it because Jason Concepcion is a big time like comic book nerd, so he like really explains
fun.
the lore about where all this stuff came from in the comic books. It's really enjoyable. I'll give a little fun fact. Robert Downey Jr. eats a burger from Burger King when he gets back in Iron Man 1. The reason why is because Burger King helped him get off drugs, because when he was driving around with some drugs, he got hungry, went to Burger King, said it was the worst hamburger he's ever had in his life, and he knew in that moment something bad was about to happen, so he threw his drugs away, checked into rehab, and got clean. I learned that from Binge Mode Marvel. So yeah, it's great. They do about 2 hours of every movie. They're fun. They're funny.
They've also done those for Game of Thrones
Yep,
when
Game
that was
of
doing it, and then
Thrones,
also for Harry
Harry
Potter. I think
Potter,
Star Wars
yep.
as well. They're good.
Yep. And then they have like a weekly. Obviously, Jason Concepcion doesn't work at the Ringer anymore, but yeah.
Beards.
8 out
we
of
need a
10.
number. Okay, 8 out of 10? 8 out of 10. Beards.
Yeah.
Give me your shot clock review
Uh-huh.
for Space Jam
Mm-hmm.
2.
So first off, LeBron's fine in it. He's about on the same level as Jordan was acting-wise in terms of Space Jam 1. The problem I have with it is instead of being basketball with the Looney Tunes, it's doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff with the Looney Tunes and also the entire property of Warner Brothers. Oh my God, there is so much going on in this movie. There's a lot to look at. It's fine. It's like a 6 out of 10. It's fine.
I'm done with that. That's
It's
fine.
not as good as the original, but it's fine.
Also, the original came out. We were all like 8, basically. So it's different. A little.
But also the thing about it is, the other thing,
How many
I don't care.
remakes?
Yeah, this is like
Dwight
a
Howard in his
51.
prime.
I'm Dennis Rodman over here. The original
You're
Space Jam,
nothing like Dennis Rodman.
The original Space
You and
Jam,
Dennis
that was
Rodman
more
have
about,
never
like,
had
the
one
Looney
thing in
Tunes,
common.
and
So
they were
far.
being the Looney Tunes, whereas this one is more about just like them all being together while also everything else in Warner is
Yeah.
here. It's like I don't necessarily need all of that. It's like I said, it's fine. It's like a 6 out of 10. It's fine.
I'm like
Impromptu
Dennis
Space
Rodman
Jam
over here.
2 review. I saw it.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I
Hit it.
saw it in theaters.
Give him the shot clock.
So yeah, it is a massive commercial for Warner Brothers with LeBron James playing a part. Like the one thing at least where I thought where Michael was better is he was being himself, whereas LeBron is being a version of himself that's just not true. It's just not him being himself.
Yeah.
Looney Tunes are always funny though, which is good. But they're not playing basketball. They're playing NBA Jam. Like that. Like the kid creates NBA Jam, which is fun.
It's kind of cool.
But it's like, that's their thing. I'm probably like in a 6.5 out of 10. But Beard's basic. He nailed it.
Wow.
It's
Dennis
entertaining.
Rodman over there. Nailed it.
It's entertaining to watch it once. I would recommend to people. Hey, yeah, watch it. You will not hate your time. The Michael Jordan bit is great.
Here is my last review that I might see if I can get Dennis Rodman to help me out on, because I don't know if I can do this within 24 seconds, but I know it's generally the point. I want to talk about a video game called Paradise Killer. So Paradise Killer is sort of this vaporwave aesthetic detective game. You are essentially a god brought back from exile to solve a complex murder. You have to travel around this island. The art and everything, like the actual, like sort of quote unquote box art, I think it's all digital, and like the character art is very like immaculately designed. Absolutely gonna need more time.
Bill Russell.
Vaporwave, but like cleaned up, and also sort of like in the vein of Hades. Everybody's shirt is basically open to their nipples the whole time. It's just the aesthetic of it all, and if that makes you squeamish, it's going to be one of several things that gets in the way of you enjoying this game. But traveling throughout the world is much more like Windows 98 Vaporwave. Some of it's really blocky and stuff, but also there are some beautiful elements. It's so weird, but it all feels very intentional. It really caught me for all. Thank you. It really caught me for probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours at this point. I have not solved the mystery yet, but I've really enjoyed it. There are things that are not perfect. It's got some rough edges, but it feels like some of those rough edges are there on purpose, and it's deeply, deeply unique. So if you want a very weird aesthetic, a weird world, some very sexy character designs that just will never get out of the way, despite the fact that some of them have the head of a goat, I would say it is a fun game if any of those words that I've said appeal to you. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 to this point. It's really weird.
So you watch Sexy Beast 2?
I have not seen Sexy Beasts. No. It's crazy that Paradise Killer was in our shot clock reviews, and it was not sort of the most upsetting, sexualized characters in our reviews. Nor was F-Boy Island. Anyway, there you go. There's shot clock reviews. We'll take a break whenever we come back. We'll talk about, I don't know, something else. There's some interesting Chiefs things we'll get to. We're going to do a lot of Chiefs with Craig Stout of KC Sports Network. That'll be around in 20 minutes. We'll talk to him at 9. We'll talk about something else whenever we come back.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
My beard is at a level of voluminosity, not Illuminati, Larry Johnson. I know you're listening. Dude, his Twitter account, don't use that as a liner. I don't want you to use that as a liner. I don't want Larry Johnson to find a picture of me from when I was 13 covering one eye. I don't know. I just did it. Oh, I just did it on Facebook. And now he can take that screenshot, and now I'm a devil worshiper or something. Oh, now he's going to cut me saying I'm a devil worshiper.
With Joshua Brisco.
I'm a devil worshiper.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
A few things were happening during the Twitch chat, during shot clock reviews, and we can't look at them because shot clock reviews might be the most involved segment we do on a regular basis. All three of us, we got to be locked in. But there have been some requests about an AES game night, doing a stream of some sort, perhaps doing a Jackbox game night, a whole bunch of those things that we have not only discussed that, we've discussed it a couple days ago. Some different ways we think we might be able to try to pull that off at some point. So very much on our radar. It's something I would love to do, basically just because I love playing Jackbox games and board games. And if the way that I can make that happen is by convincing people around me to do it for hashtag content, then it works. Then it's a victory in my book. So I do think we should look into it. Do you guys have a preference of I don't feel like either of you have ever really talked about like a board game that you like. Do either of you have a board game that's like a go-to that you're a big fan of or something?
You mean outside of chess? It's been years since I played chess.
I mean, we could play chess.
No.
We could play chess on... You and I could stream a game of chess, and I bet people would watch it. I bet it would be bad. I would get absolutely flamed, I'm sure, for all of the terrible things that I do and the things that I don't see, but I would probably do it. But yes, outside of chess, something that involves more people. But do you have like a favorite in the chamber somewhere? You're like, oh man, if family is coming over or if friends are coming over and you want to do something, what board game would you go to? Rudy's typing for something. I feel like Rudy is googling for an acceptable answer.
I'm not googling. I was updating a podcast stuff. I will just say, because simply put, I could not tell you the last board game that we did not play board games with my family growing up. Really,
that's sad.
I played Monopoly.
It's also sad. I also got Monopoly on Switch and didn't review it. I could have done a Monopoly review.
Like your standard board games, right?
Kind of the same.
But like I could not tell you the last board game. I bet I haven't. The last time I played a board game was probably, I bet, pre-high school.
Wow.
Yeah. Maybe high school.
You should have had nerdier friends in college also, because that definitely kept some of that alive. I played some weird... I think I've mentioned this in the show before.
When I was in college, our big game was... we literally would spend hours and hours and hours playing Call of Duty Zombies.
Which is also...
Yeah. I guess that was kind of like our board game, right? Like our version of that.
I mean, but you can play video games and also board games.
For sure. I just meant like that was our thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
a lot of Call of Duty in college.
I played some like weird board games because one thing that MNU ended up having, I think there was a grant of some sort that MNU got. Because I'm pretty sure we wrote about this in the newspaper. I don't know, but to add like some Euro board games and some just like very much not sorry Monopoly Trouble board games, because that became a whole part of like we had a whole class called Games as Learning Systems that I took, even though it had no bearing on my major or minor or anything. And it was fun and it was weird. And I think a good board game is so much fun because you can end up getting such interesting mechanisms, and the best ones involve interacting with the people around you, which is one of the things that Catan is so sweet with.
I currently own a board game. I own the Adventure Zone.
Dude, we gotta play the Adventure Zone board game.
Oh, I do though now remember my favorite board game though growing up was 100%, and this is on brand. I begged and begged and begged to my mom.
Hold on. Beards, you want to guess? What did Rudy beg his mom for as a board game? He said it's on brand. A board game as a child.
Something Marvel-y.
I was not into superheroes until 2015, maybe.
I don't know why.
2016.
I don't know why this would be on brand, but I'm just thinking Chutes and Ladders. I don't know why.
No,
okay.
Didn't beg. It was the first official. It was like I'm trying to remember the exact name. I think it was the Pokemon I Choose You board game. Basically,
oh,
it was like the Pokemon Adventure board game. That game, like you picked your starter, you went through the map, you battled. That board game was fantastic.
That sounds great. It has reminded
Pokemon
me.
Master Trainer. It is on
Okay.
eBay right now for $190.
So here's what I am afraid to Google. I mean, I've Googled it. I'm afraid to check it out on eBay because I am pretty sure this one was left at my parents' house, and I would bet that they probably donated it when they moved.
This is the board game.
There was a
game was
Neopets
great.
board game called Neopets Adventures in Neopia that I would probably pay a pretty upsetting amount of money just to like
have.
see again. Yeah, because I remember it being fun. I also, again, this is sort of a recurring issue in my life, is I just had a hard time getting people to play it with me. But it says you can do 2 to 4 players in the Neopets game, so I could find this and then just be like, Renee, we're playing the Neopets board game tonight.
Yeah.
You and me. This is our evening.
Chaotic War. If you want to make like 2, he says he believes he has the Master Trainer game around somewhere. You want to make $200? You could sell. I'm on Amazon right now. That thing is $400. But yeah, this was the game that I had, and it was. I mean, it was amazing. I loved it. And like, I would just play it by myself. Even didn't matter. I was just like, I don't need anybody to play this with. Nobody wants to at the moment. Play it myself.
Okay, so the Neopets
good.
one has gone a different direction,
Worthwhile.
which is that there's a pre-owned
$5?
version for $21, and you can get it new for $40, which is probably what it was whenever I got it the first time.
Probably.
I'm going to leave open. You know, sometimes at the end of the show, we'll play the game of what tabs do you have open that sort of illustrate how the show went.
Mm-hmm.
I might just keep this one open, especially if I feel like the 2-player version could actually work. Because 2-player board games can be tough, which makes me want to play this. Yeah, Pokemon Master Trainer, though.
It was a classic.
I did not know that there was a Pokemon board
There were like
game.
multiple editions, I guess. I had the 1999, which I didn't know about that. I didn't know that there were multiple editions of it. I had the 99 Pokemon Master Trainer by Milton Bradley because I remember it had the black case.
Well, now I'm sort of surprised that has not come back around again because some sort of game where you are able to move about the board, have random encounters,
Battle
flip a
gym
card to see what
leaders.
you encounter, see if you can catch it, whatever. Move on the gym leaders. Can you
'Cause,
evolve the
had
Pokemon you have?
You had little tokens, and you would just randomly place them throughout the, flip them upside down, mix them up, and then put them in there, randomly put them in the holes, right? Like I think they were mixed up in terms of the stronger ones, obviously, are meant for later, weaker ones, beginner, but it was fun.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Beards, I heard a
think you
tut
said-
and some silence.
think
I'm
you said
guessing there's
2
2 minutes
minutes.
left in the hour, but
Yes.
the button is not
Yeah.
necessarily being friendly to us at
I
this
remember
point.
playing this game inside on the 4th of July while fireworks were going off outside because I was like, bleep
Beautiful.
you fireworks. I'm 9 years old. I don't need fireworks in my life. I got Pokemon to catch.
I'm just sort of, I know this is bad radio, but I'm like extremely interested in,
I'd like to find a copy of this game that's not $200.
I'm extremely interested in how it works. It also says 2 to 6 players.
It was
Do you think we
great.
could write this off? Do we think we could expense this if we made it
I
into
mean,
if we did
I found it right
a
here.
video with it or something?
$75, but it's missing the instruction booklet. I don't need the instruction booklet.
That's probably
I know
online
how to
somewhere,
play, and it's also probably online somewhere.
Also, do you think that the 2005 version is like fundamentally different by looking at it? It's
I mean,
called
different.
Master Trainer.
Certainly, my guess is the game, the base of the game is the same, but you're not probably in Kanto. You're probably in whatever the 2005 region
Oh,
was.
interesting.
But and also with new Pokemon as well. That would be my guess.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, if you find this game, I'm not saying that it's going to be able to convert to a AES game night super easily, although
I'd
it might.
play it.
I'm just saying I would play it for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
For sure. We might
Yeah,
just need to have a
absolutely.
game night that is just
Oh.
at my house.
I'll look into this.
I'm going to keep that Neopets board game tab
I would
open.
play this Neopets board game.
I mean, I just have to
I mean,
think
the
that it was
2005
fun.
edition is $40 here
Of which one?
of the Pokemon Master.
That's also the case for the Neopets one. All right, Rudy and I are going to see what we can do during the break to make 80 quick bucks. Whenever we come back, we'll talk to Craig Stout of the KC Sports Network about his favorite board games. I bet he's a board game guy. And also a whole bunch of things from the Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll do that next.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Briscoe on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Steve Lennox. Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill is expected to miss 5 to 10 days after being placed on the reserve COVID-19 list. Titans have 7 players right now on the reserve list. Head coach Mike Vrabel tested positive for the coronavirus on Sunday. Patriots quarterback Cam Newton returned to practice Thursday. Newton had missed the previous 3 days of practice due to COVID protocols. Patriots have acquired rookie cornerback Shaun Wade from the Baltimore Ravens. Sources telling ESPN's Jamison Hensley Ravens will receive a 7th-round pick in 22 from the Patriots, also a 5th-round pick in 2023. Giants running back Saquon Barkley did participate in live drills today in the team's joint practice with the Patriots. Baseball, 3rd inning in San Diego. Dodgers up 3-0 on the Padres. Phillies today placing Rhys Hoskins back on the IL with an abdomen tear. Hoskins is expected to miss the remainder of the season. Phillies home tonight and down right now 6-2 in the 7th inning against the Diamondbacks. Orioles are now on a win streak.
Initial offering belted. Deep center field. This ball is climbing. It is out of the bullpen. It is a grand slam. And the Orioles have added separation against the Angels. 7-1. A pitch is up. And Severino clubs it over the wall in center.
Call on 105.7 The Fan. Orioles ended a 19-game losing streak on Wednesday, beat the Angels Thursday, 13-1. Shohei Ohtani a home run in the loss, his 41st of the season. With today's win, Orioles have now won 2 in a row. White Sox 4 home runs in Toronto, beat the Blue Jays 10-7.
Hey, it's Alan Hahn, and Friday on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. Texas is about to join a new conference. But the one question remains, are they back? Well, that's head coach Steve Sarkisian, 9:10 a.m. Eastern, Friday on ESPN Radio.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
We're in the pit of despair of the Chiefs.
I'm not a pit of misery. Dilly. Sorry. I don't even like that commercial.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
A large portion of tonight's show has been dedicated to talking about some preseason storylines, some Chiefs things. That was basically the first hour. A large portion was dedicated to board games and shot clock reviews. That was the second hour. I'm guessing we're going to be able to get a little bit of both in the final hour of tonight's show with Craig Stout of KC Sports Network. You can follow him on Twitter at BarleyHop. You can check out the KCSN Substack at kcsn.substack.com, plus kcsportsnetwork.com for a good little homepage there of everything the guys are doing with KCSN. Craig, the first and most important question here is, what is your favorite board game? Or at least your go-to one?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's a ridiculously loaded question. I've been playing a lot of the board game Concordia, which is a phenomenal worker placement game. Also really love the board game Wingspan, but I probably play Splendor the most out of anything just because it's easy, it's portable, it's light, and it's easy to play.
I don't know why I was so confident. I think you may have tweeted about Concordia, but I was really sure that you were going to have answers, but you had so many answers that, like...
Oh, I could go... We have an entire radio show that I could spend on board games and board games alone. So, we're good there.
Don't tempt me. I'm trying to figure out if I played Concordia. It sounds very familiar, and like I might have played it once. I in college we had like a very large library of board games that you could play. It was one of the best perks of MNU, if I'm being honest. It was also after Kent's time, I think, so I don't think he and I shared that experience. But I love a good board game, and now I'm excited to have a couple to add to my repertoire. So if you're going to suggest one of your favorites that, like, hey, just go buy this and then just play it, is it Splendor because of the carryability, or is it Concordia, or is it something else?
It's probably Splendor just because you can play it with just about anybody. Doesn't matter the group. Somebody's going to be able to pick it up and play it easily. Some of the other stuff that I suggested, they're a little heavier and takes a lot longer to play. So, but pick up Splendor. You'll be happy with that one.
We got started on this because my greatest purchase of the last month was that the Nintendo Switch version of Catan was on sale. And it has a pretty good AI. It's got a little campaign mode that generates different maps, and they can have one of the maps is like, hey, you have all these great resources except for you get 2 ore hexes, and also the numbers are like 11 and 12. And so getting ore is really difficult on this map. And that just totally re-blossomed something in me that I had forgotten about, mostly because at this point, most of my friends and family do not want to play board games with me because I am, in fact, too competitive.
No, trust me, I get that, and I play a lot of board games with my wife, and she keeps me in check so that when I go to other places and play board games with people, I don't let that competitive side of me come out quite as much, but it's still there.
Okay, here's my last question on this front and it's totally self-serving. But what is your favorite 2-player game? Because I'm pretty sure most of the time I can get Renee to play a board game with me, like maybe once. But the issue becomes once I have to teach it to somebody else or whatever. So what's your best just 2-player game that you play with your wife?
My wife and I really love playing the game Wingspan. It's a game about bird watching, and it's also a little bit of a worker placement game. You can actually play it with up to 4 players, but it plays so well with 2 players. And it's an absolutely gorgeous game.
Yeah.
Hand-drawn art of birds. It is wonderful. I can't put a higher stamp of recommendation on a game than I have for Wingspan. It's probably the game that I've played almost the most if it wasn't for Splendor.
Okay, I mean, I'm going to end this show tonight with a lot of tabs open that are probably going to lead to a shopping cart issue for me. But Wingspan looks beautiful. Oh, man. Okay, all right. I'm taking that. You can say anything you want about Chris Jones, and nothing you're going to do in the next 20 minutes is going to have a greater impact on my life than you just being like, no, buy Wingspan. You won't regret it. And I think also just having cute pictures of birds on it is going to help Renee on the on-ramp to the game. So this one might be perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. This is great.
You definitely are. You're going to play it. She's going to love it. It's going to be easy. It's great. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so thank you for what is clearly impacting my life the most from tonight. But we could probably talk about some things that non-board game players are interested in as well. And then I guess maybe we circle back around to polo at the end. We have a lot going on here tonight. But you've got several new pieces up on the Substack right now, and one of your recent ones is unlocked for anybody. If anyone is still trying to figure out, hey, is this worth it? Yes. Should I just pull the trigger? Yes. Even if you haven't gotten to that answer, you can check this one out, kcsn.substack.com, and the price goes up by $10 here in a few days. So go lock in your $40 a year subscription price right now. But one of the things you wrote about is some of the guys who have made the most on the defense of the preseason they've gotten so far. There are names on here that people know that we've talked a lot about. I mean, all of these names, if you're a major Chiefs fan, obviously you do know. But I am probably most interested in what you've seen from Joshua Kaindoh, because he hasn't necessarily been making like huge splashes or getting a ton of work super early in a way that has jumped off the screen. But there's been a lot of injuries at that position. They end up moving on from Taco Charlton, so I bet we see more Kaindoh tomorrow as well. How has his performance this preseason adjusted your expectations or your opinion on him?
I mean, we always knew that Joshua Kaindoh was the athlete that he was. I mean, the testing numbers were excellent. He was a 5-star recruit. You don't get there if you don't have a body of work that shows up well and you're not a terrific athlete. But one of his knocks coming out of college was that he didn't really process the game particularly well, and a large part of that I kind of attributed to Florida State just switching their coaching staff. Just a bunch of turmoil there. He didn't get the same coaching that some other guys did. And so the question mark was always going to be, how quick is he going to be able to translate to reading the game at the NFL level? And we're seeing that. You actually saw in the third quarter, there was a play where Joshua Kaindoh misread a read option keeper. Quarterback ran for a first down. They tried it a little bit later, and when they tried that with him at the goal line, he was able to change direction, position his body with good flexibility, and bring the quarterback down for a tackle for loss at the goal line. Just a terrific individual effort by him. So you're seeing him learn the game. You're seeing him adjust to the speed of the game, and it's happening a lot quicker than I expected that it was going to for Joshua Kaindoh. That is a massive deal for him. So if he steps up and is able to make that transition, is able to take those big strides in year one, it makes roster construction for 2022 so much easier on Brett Veach, something that I wasn't sure that we were going to see that we are already seeing in the preseason.
Yeah, I'm super interested in the timeline of that because I was pretty willing to let him have a redshirt year and not really think about it too much. What are you feeling then in terms of when he'll get meaningful playing time in the regular season, much less how that eventually could help them in 2022?
I mean, we saw in week one that he got a few dime reps. You know, he was coming on the field with the first team dime rushers there. Now, they obviously didn't have Taco Charlton in preseason week one or Alex Okafor available or Frank Clark. So a lot of guys that are down there, but they trusted him to get on the field and sort of pin his ears back as a dime rusher. I do think that that's probably the position that he will play early just because it takes away some of the run-pass read that he has to do immediately off the snap. But I'm not discounting anything at this point because of the progress that we've already seen from Joshua Kando. I think that you can kind of pencil him in as being a guy that may make the active game day roster regularly, may contribute fairly regularly. That is a position with a high amount of attrition. So I do expect that they're not just going to try and shelve him, redshirt him this year. I think he'll play. Now, it just remains to be seen. Health, I think, is going to be the big part of that position. If everybody stays healthy, it may be more or less a redshirt year, but I do think that they are not hesitant to play him. I'm very anxious to see him tomorrow to see how he progresses in week 3.
I'm excited. I'm more excited to watch him now with that in the record there officially. So I'm excited as well. Are you building something? What's going on?
No, sorry, I dropped something just now. No, I'm getting ready to play some Wingspan right here, Josh. I'm setting it up. I was gonna video in. We were gonna play.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I was gonna say I'll hop in the car and head down there. But if you want to just let me zoom in, you can make my moves for me. I think that's a good idea.
Absolutely.
And listen, as Kent was fine when we talked to him earlier in the week, but in terms of like KCSN members who make the most unpleasant noises on the show, you are a distant second place. Distant.
I know. Listen, Kent likes to breathe directly into microphones. Let's be real. We know this. I've experienced it for years. We just know this. We accept it. We move on.
Yep, that's what you just got to power through. I don't necessarily want to work through all these guys here because I want people to go check out your story and get the 5 guys that you mentioned in this piece. But you used a word for Willie Gay Jr. that I am so happy to see attributed to him, and it's what I've been hoping to see this year. But I don't trust my eyes as much as I trust yours, so it makes me feel good to hear you use the word comfortable about Willie Gay to this point. He only played in the second preseason game. I expect that he might be one of the starters that could get a little extra work tomorrow that maybe the rest of the starters wouldn't get. Explain what you're seeing as you see Willie Gay Jr. look comfortable on the field right now here in his second season.
Well, last year when he was on the field next to Anthony Hitchens, there was a lot of pre-snap alignment that Anthony Hitchens had to do, a lot of direction. That's fine. I'm not trying to knock him heavily for that, but it is a situation where they didn't trust him to go out there and execute the defense routinely, and Anthony Hitchens had to do a lot of work before him. So you saw some guys like Ben Neiman get on the field a little bit more because Spagnuolo just wants guys that he trusts in that linebacker position. Now you see him in preseason week 2, his first action so far of this year, and there's none of that pre-snap coaching. There's none. I mean, no more than usual, no more than he's giving to Frank Clark or Chris Jones or guys, it's just regular adjustments. It's not the extra amount that you're starting to see, and he's playing fast. He's reading offensive linemen. He's reading the concepts and stepping in the right direction and going to where the places that you want your linebackers to go, and then playing with the kind of leverage that you want your linebackers to play with. He has Chris Jones's play where he blew up the tight end that everybody remembered. Part of that's because Willie Gay actually attacked an offensive tackle, stacked him in the gap, extended an arm, and squeezed an outside gap, really shutting the door for the running back to not go much anywhere. Now, Chris Jones was going to swallow it up anyway, but it was a fantastic play by Willie Gay, a play that we didn't see last year. And it wasn't something that was directed by Anthony Hitchens. He was told where to go. He's just specifically reading what's in front of him. And that was the step that he needed to take, because we know the athletic ability is there. If he's playing mentally fast as well, I mean, just look out. You're talking about an incredible, impactful linebacker if he's able to play as fast mentally as we know he is physically.
This is a loaded question with that being, Willie Gay's first year and then the second year coming now. But do you have a Nick Bolton heat check? Has anything changed in terms of with what you've seen so far? I mean, he did not get a lot of work, and I don't think he got almost any work early in the second preseason game, if memory serves. But do you have a feel for what his role is right now? What it might be by week 8? What it might be by the playoffs, et cetera?
I think he's probably going to end up being more of a base-down linebacker. I think we're talking about a guy that's going to play a Sam or maybe, just one of the outside spots opposite of Willie Gay. I think that that's fine, and that's to be expected in year one. That's kind of what we all expected. The little thing that gives me pause here is when Anthony Hitchens comes out of the game, it's not Nick Bolton that's calling the defense. It's Darius Harris. And then when there was injuries in preseason week 1, it was Riley Cole. So it was never Nick Bolton being that guy. That's not to say that, Steve Spagnuolo might just be saying, listen, your contribution for us this year is going to come at one of these outside linebacker roles. We want you to get as many reps as possible in those roles. It's not to say that he's never going to be that Mike linebacker, but part of the benefit of drafting him in the second round is that you do have a potential future Mike. You've definitely got the brain power, the football IQ for all of that. But the fact that he didn't rep there at all so far this preseason does make me raise my eyebrow a little bit.
Okay, that's interesting. That'll do. I mean, I'll keep an eye on that as well. I think that's fine. Also, we don't need, like you said, a lot of these guys with the roster the Chiefs have and everything. Not everyone has to be a starter in their permanent position day one. I'm going to be interested to see how that group continues to evolve. And I think if we didn't all get a little more patient as Willie Gay's rookie year went on, that maybe we can translate over to Nick Bolton. That I feel like we should be able to be. I'll say that. I am very interested in how you have felt about what we've seen so far from the corners, because it is just it is a group that I think has gone and justified some of the faith that the Chiefs have put into it in terms of, like, we're just going to have 97 of these guys that we think can probably play. And as long as, 2 of them can, we're in pretty good shape. Charvarius Ward is starting. L'Jarius Sneed is starting and moving into the slot, although Spags said they might not do that every week, depending on who they're playing, which I think is kind of interesting. But then there is basically Mike Hughes and DeAndre Baker, and then Rashad Fenton seems like maybe he's behind those 2 guys right now, but I feel generally I'm not anxious whenever he's on the field necessarily. So how have you seen that group shake out so far?
Well, I mean, Josh, I'm glad you're sitting down right now because, this is the Bashaud Breeland revenge game.
And I'm not sure my heart's going to be able to take it. Yeah.
I know. But it does seem like to this point, and granted, it is just preseason and a lot of things can change, but to this point, it does seem like the Chiefs have made the right moves. All of these guys are young, under control by the Chiefs, and can really contribute for the next couple of years. And I think what we've seen from Mike Hughes, what we've seen from DeAndre Baker, are just immensely positive things from both of those guys. Charvarius Ward and L'Jarius Sneed also look excellent at the quarterback positions, even better than I thought they were going to, and I had crazy high hopes for L'Jarius Sneed. Charvarius Ward looks great as well. But it's that second team of guys, Mike Hughes, DeAndre Baker, even Rashad Fenton, they just all look very locked in. They look like they're playing at a higher level than any of us expected. They almost play like they're hungry. Like they're all competing. They're all, really trying to win snaps on this team. So I think what we're going to see is you're going to have games where the hot hand plays. Now, Mike Hughes is getting those reps right now, but DeAndre Baker's playing the exact same role right behind him. So if DeAndre Baker is having some good weeks of practice, is looking particularly good, we may see weeks where DeAndre Baker gets snaps with the first team, knowing full well that in next year's roster, you've got 2 guys I mean, I think we all would have been happy if one of Mike Hughes or DeAndre Baker worked out for this team. You potentially have two guys that can really click in and play cornerback from this team with L'Jarius Sneed. All three of those guys are working. All of a sudden, this lack of investment in the Chiefs put into cornerback that we have all bemoaned for what seems like decades now, it goes away. It really does, because they found the guys and they can move forward with a bunch of guys on rookie contracts that they can really get good, high-quality play out of.
How much of that do you attribute to Brett Veach / pro scouting team saying, you know what, I don't think they're getting the most out of these guys? And how much do you attribute to Steve Spagnuolo, one, putting them in a system that can help they can help guys out in that regard? I don't know how specific we even know about that, but also just like what he gets out of those guys, Spags and the assistant coaches as well. What's the balance there of Chiefs found a gym or Chiefs found a lump of coal that Steve Spagnuolo turned into a diamond?
I do think that it's probably I'll give Spagnuolo and company 66% of that, like 2/3 of the credit. Sam Madison's been wonderful this season and really has evolved what the cornerback position has meant. But Steve Spagnuolo has invested heavily in those safeties, plays a lot of split safety, gives those guys a lot of safety help, and then tells them play aggressive underneath because you've got the help over the top. And that makes a difference. You saw that with Charvarius Ward and Rashad Breeland last year and L'Jarius Sneed as well. You've seen that with a couple of other guys, even Kendall Fuller. Play aggressive underneath, knowing you've got the safety net over the top. It's a little bit of a different approach. And maybe some teams in the NFL are starting to catch up to it as well, knowing full well that you can avoid a boundary cornerback, but it's really hard to avoid that middle of the field that the safety soak up, and you can help protect your boundary cornerbacks a little bit. Spagnuolo, I think, may have been a little bit ahead of the game with that, but they definitely maximized every single one of these guys. It just really doesn't matter who it is. They come in and they just look so much better than they have previous places that they've played. So I'm just immensely blown away by what Sam Madison, Dave Merritt, and Steve Spagnuolo have done back there.
I like that split, and I also think that you talk about being able to protect those guys some. This is I'm more explaining this to the general audience than you directly, because I think you're going to understand where I'm coming from on this. But like throughout the offseason and the preseason, and people have said, all right, if the Chiefs aren't back in the Super Bowl, what goes wrong other than like Patrick Mahomes gets hurt or retires? And for me, I keep going back to the cornerback group, not because I didn't think that they would get it figured out, because I sort of think that at this point Spags has earned that trust. But that if you do end up with somebody who is not fit for that position, that's the easiest thing for a quarterback to pick on. We spent 20 minutes earlier this week talking about who was it that we figured out it was Trevor Siemian who destroyed Phillip Gaines, right?
Yeah, Trevor Siemian.
It wasn't even a Peyton Manning game. I thought it was a Peyton Manning game. It was a Trevor Siemian game.
It's easy to mistake.
You were thinking of Marcus Cooper.
And yes, because there's Marcus Cooper. And then there's
Terrence Mitchell.
Terrence Mitchell was one of those guys who ended up actually going on and playing some decent football after that. But we remember the names of those guys because we watched them turn from bread into toast on national television. Yep. And so I just have a little bit of CB PTSD. Like that's just something that I'm going to have to continue to work through. But we haven't seen that happen to a Spags guy. Like, at least, certainly in Kansas City. I maybe that was different somewhere in St. Louis or New York, but it certainly hasn't happened here.
I mean, the only thing that I can really think of was the Raiders game last year and Charvarius Ward getting beat up just a little bit. Charvarius Ward's worst game of his career right there, he rebounded. Like, we're not talking about something that, ruined him in the way that some of those other guys were ruined. They didn't figure Charvarius Ward out. He just had a bad game. And that happens. That happens to the best of them. So, no, you don't see that happen quite as regularly with these Spagnuolo guys because of the way that he plays it. He funnels these low percentage throws at the cornerbacks. It's easy for a quarterback to step up, throw a strike in the middle of the field. You got to throw to the boundary, throw to the sideline, 25 yards down the field, trying to place it in between a safety and a cornerback that is playing aggressive and slowing up the receiver. That's a low percentage throw. So a lot of times quarterbacks are going to look at that and go, nah, I'm just going to ignore that. Like, there's no reason to really look at that. They didn't win off the line of scrimmage. They're not going to win that throw. So teams don't tend to throw it unless you got like a DeAndre Hopkins over there, and then, that guy's open all the time. So just throw it anyway. But a lot of offenses are going to look at a Spagnuolo defense and start eliminating the sidelines because of that. And so they get by with some of the lack of investment at cornerback because of that, because they allow them to play that specific way on the boundary.
I think that's super interesting and such a good summary of it. Last thing I think is a big question, because also a big film review that you can go read right now at kcsn.substack.com. Price goes up in a couple of days, so go lock in your $40 a year right now, kcsn.substack.com. And you can read Craig's film review of the one, Juan Thornhill. Obviously, we don't have to recount the entire offseason because we have talked about it on this show constantly. We've played the audio from the post-game last week where Thornhill talked about being 100% back, liking having more reps because, everybody behind him on the depth chart would love those reps. I think we have a little better feel, even after hearing from Spags more recently, about him just getting to some things mentally that maybe he was still recovering from, even as his knee is hopefully at this point, 100% as he says it is. But whenever you dove into the film review, and again, to actually watch the video and get all of the details, you got to go go check it out in the Substack because it all works together, and I love the videos. But in sort of the overall look here, where did you start from? Kind of taking a re-review of Juan Thornhill with all of that background in check, and then how has he evolved? What have you seen from him in this preseason that either is back to where he was as a rookie, better, improved, maybe somewhere he's taken a step back, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, obviously covering the defense for the past 3 years, I have watched every Juan Thornhill snap that there was to watch, from an all-22 view, seeing how he's trying to play in coverage and things like that. So I was there for the rookie year where I saw him explode onto the scene, and he played like a super athlete, one of the true single high safeties that the Chiefs have. That they don't play it often, but Juan Thornhill can definitely play on the backside. Just an immense playmaker back there, and then he got hurt. And he just didn't look like he was the same athlete. He didn't trust his angles coming downhill because he wasn't able to make the same, sort of paths to the ball carrier to try and bring him down. But we saw him come on at the end of last year, especially in the AFC Championship game against the Buffalo Bills. He was phenomenal. He looked like the old Juan again. And when I watch the preseason, I see a lot of the old Juan. Like, I see this athlete that looks really good, particularly when gaining depth and topping routes. He looks very fluid in his hits. He's got good click and close to come down and fill the alley, and he looks more aggressive than we had seen Juan Thornhill look. I think everybody kind of remembers some of the plays against the Titans, maybe him missing tackles against Derrick Henry that resulted in some big plays. Juan Thornhill is coming downhill with intent in this preseason to try and lay hits, to try and bring down the ball carrier. He played a little bit of the box for Steve Spagnuolo this preseason, but he is lacking a little bit in some of these man coverage reps. And that's a little bit surprising because he was a cornerback at Virginia, and he looked good in man coverage there. He looked pretty good in man coverage in his rookie year in a limited role, but he's been beat up a little bit in the preseason so far. So I wonder if there are questions about his route fill, his ability to read what the receiver is doing. I just wonder if there's a mental side of this. He's spoken about coming back mentally from that injury, and who can blame him? Nobody can. So I do wonder if there's a little bit of a mental climb, but what I see in the preseason tape is the athletic profile is back, and he looks more aggressive. So I think if he can tweak some of those things that may just be mental things, which are easier to fix than maybe some of the physical stuff, we might be back to rookie Juan Thornhill, impactful Juan Thornhill, starting over Dan Sorensen Juan Thornhill.
The man coverage stuff is interesting to me because I'm curious, do you think that is that an aspect where the Chiefs can just not put him in those situations, or is the flexibility and the, I'm going to make up a word, multi-positionality of a defensive back in Spags' system, is that too important to have a weakness in your game like that. Now, I will also make this point before you have a chance to make it. Dan Sorensen has some weaknesses, even as he is able to do a million things in this defense. He doesn't do everything at a Tyrann Mathieu level, because if he did, he would be Tyrann Mathieu. But I don't know. What do you make of that?
I do think the Chiefs have largely not put him in those situations, especially last year. He came on the field in dime situations, as the seventh defensive back. So I do think that you saw him just play more zone last year. And I think if this is the path towards Juan Thornhill getting on the field, I think it would be largely the same. That's not necessarily a problem. Again, he's got the most range of anybody on the back end. It's not like Earl Thomas, who had just infinite range on the back end. You didn't look at him and say, okay, well, we need to really line him up in the slot to make sure that we keep defense or offenses guessing here and there. No, if Juan Thornhill's on the back end, it's fine, because he's going to blanket cover a lot of field back there. So I don't think that it's a massive issue, but the fact that he's not getting in there over Dan Sorensen, that, allows them to be a little more versatile on the front, does make you wonder if that is something that Spagnuolo is just really coveting over that athletic profile on the back end.
Craig, I'm just going to tell you this so you can take it with you, and maybe I can pay you back this way for the board game recommendations. You do such a good job of taking all of the work that you have to do to put into that and spitting it back out, both written form and audio form, in a way that is so easy to follow that I feel like I understand it. And then if somebody asked me to re-explain what you had just said, I would stare into the darkness until dead air eventually consumed the world. But you do such a good job of that, which obviously is something that's consistent throughout the KC Sports Network. KCSN.substack.com for the full Juan Thornhill film review and everything else that everyone with KCSN does. You can also go to KCSportsNetwork.com. Last question is, can you explain to me, I'm just going to assume that none of this was joking earlier, what it is that you love about polo? I almost said polio, but that might have been incorrect. I don't believe that you love polio.
I do not love polio. Just to be clear, just to be on the record.
I was pretty sure.
I don't want that.
It's a bull tape.
I don't want that audio coming out. Listen, polo is the king's game. Like it is infinitely exciting at all times. It's men on horses swinging mallets at a plastic ball on a field, trying to score between two poles. I am not joking, Josh. There was a time in my life before I had children that I used to watch a lot of late night polo with beverages, and there may or may not have been a polo fantasy league that me and some friends came up with, which also happens to be the whitest three words that you can put together. So I was into polo for a little while. I really, really was.
Polo Fantasy League everything you just said is true and fair. Wow. All right. Well, thank you for making some time for us tonight, Craig. It's always a joy, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Polo expert, board game expert, NFL Chiefs defense expert, Craig Stout. Truly the Renaissance man. He did not get that nickname for no good reason. He's the Renaissance man. You can also follow him on Twitter at BarleyHop. Again, I mean, with Kent and Craig especially, you know that we're not blowing smoke because I love having both of them on this show, but go support what they're doing with KCSN, because that's how they can continue to do this work the way that they want to. Stuff like that is so important. I'm very glad that they're seeing success there with the launch of KCSN, and I think that you, if you care about football and Chiefs football on the kind of level that will have you listening to this show, I like to think that you would also go ahead and go pull the trigger for the KCSN Substack as well, kcsn.substack.com, to support all those great folks over there at KCSN. How many times have I said KCSN this segment? Literally uncountable. That's the new game that I'm going to play, is I'm going to go back through this segment and figure out how many times I said the name of that organization, which is KCSN. It was a lot.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco
This show is an oddball, and I love that about it.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thanks again to Craig Stout for joining us. He's fabulous. He's just fantastic at everything that he does, including give board game recommendations. And I'm going to get home tonight and be like, hey, Renee, look at this picture of this beautiful bird on a board game box.
Pretty bird.
Do you want to play a game with this pretty bird on it? I think that might be enough to convince her to say, like, yeah, sure. And then I'll buy it. And then at that point, we'll see how many games I get, that are before eventually
30% of one game.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can get through one. But I also did notice I don't know anything about this game. I'm probably going to buy it. I'm probably going to buy it completely blind without any other information on it because it sounds great and I trust Craig's recommendation. But it also says 1 to 5 players.
Yeah, you don't need Renee.
And I feel like what my future might eventually end up being is that I just have a sweet board game collection that can be played alone. I just like so much about them.
That's sad.
And it might just be, the whole concept of alone in a room full of people. It's just gonna be playing a board game alone with a whole bunch of friends doing other things around me, because I just want to play a board game. But just so good. Anyway.
Yeah, I got nothing against board games. I'm not played a lot of them in my life, but I am not an anti-board game person.
You're not anti-board game. You're
not anti-board game.
You're just waiting. You're doing your own research. You're waiting to get some more information. You're not anti-board game.
I'm just waiting for the right board game to play.
It's just a personal choice. Yeah. Playing a board game is just a personal choice that you'll make. That
I don't really have a lot. I've never had people in my life who enjoy playing board games. So I've never I've never had board games to play with people. Like, it wasn't something that we did in my family much growing up, and I never had friends that enjoyed playing board games. It was, video games, plenty of those, but that was about it, yeah.
And I understand that, by the way. Video games are board games for one person, basically. You know, that's usually, obviously, they're a great multiplayer video games.
Yeah.
No one has to explain that to me. But you can typically
Every
play a
video
video game by
game
yourself.
can be played, by yourself. 99.9%.
There are several things from the Twitch chat that I wanted to circle back to where I saw right before I started talking to Craig, and I knew we were going to waste his time enough. Not that you're a waste of time, Twitch chat. You get it. It's mostly me being self-deprecating, probably. Human Torch subscribing again to the Sports Radio 810 Twitch. Shout out to Human Torch. That is a 7-month streak for Human Torch on Twitch. Appreciate that. There were a handful of things, though, that popped up that really caught my eye. There was... well, hold on. Now I've lost it. There was the game about the haunted house.
Oh, I can get that for you.
That I wanted to read the comment because I read a.
It's like House on the Hill.
I think it is House on the Hill.
That.
Yeah, the Betrayal on the House of the Hill. Ice Pyro recommended. Different angle every time you play.
Josh.
I think this may. Will you Google this and see if there was a Polygon Let's Play of this or something? Because they have Overboard, you know. I'm
What's
wondering
it called again?
Betrayal on the House of the Hill. They also, I think I might be thinking of. I think it's like Ultimate Werewolf or something like that.
They did, but there was another one that they did. It was like essentially not a full murder mystery or anything, but like you're in a house. I know. I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think Polygon played this. I think I watched it. Ice Pyro says the first half is exploring a haunted house using randomized room tiles together. Then the haunt begins. One person turns traitor, and a new end game is established. There are 50 different end games.
Polygon.com, Betrayal at House on the Hill. Overboard.
Is it okay? So I think I've actually seen that game played once. Then. Yep. Someone mentioned Code Names. I'll say this: I played Code Names. I think I played it on a Twitch stream once.
I think I've played Code Names once.
But there are a couple versions online that you can play very easily.
Yeah. Polygon also did Code Names.
Code Names is really good with people you know pretty well. That would be one that we could play together.
I should say Overboard did Code Names because when the pandemic hit, obviously they were doing stuff from home, so they were looking for online stuff. Code Names is the one that they went with.
Codenames, if you haven't played Codenames, it is basically you have this whole board of words that only two people can see the colors of. Essentially, you have a red team and a blue team. And let's say you've got 2 teams of 4. Why am I explaining board game rules for a game we're not playing on the radio? I don't know, because it's 9:45 and we've talked a lot about the Chiefs this week. So, one player on each team is like the Code Master, I think is what it's called, or something like that. And they see all of these worlds, and what's that?
A Code Master or the equivalent.
Yeah. So they see all these words, but they also know which ones are words that they need to get their players to flip over, which ones the other team's trying to get their players to flip over. There's some neutral words, and then there's one like bomb. If you hit that one, the game's over and the other team wins.
Bye-bye.
But it's what's fun about it is you might look at the map, and if I'm the Code Master, whatever it's called, and I see that there is, one of the words that's mine is cheese, and one of the words that's mine is pet, and one of the words that's mine is wall. You only can say then what you can type out one word and give a number to get a clue to all of those. Now you have way more than that, but if I say those 3, I might say mouse 3. And then everyone else on your team has to figure out, okay, what words are adjacent to mouse? If cat was on the board, but maybe that was blue team's card, it would be reasonable for you to pick it, but maybe I didn't think about that being correlated. So all of those, you end up playing these like telepathic sort of mind games of, I think Josh thinks that these 3 words are the most similar, and it's really fun. That's a game that, again, you can play it online and stream pretty easily also. So maybe that ends up being in our future on
there are like different
AES
versions of it too that I saw. There's like a Disney one, a Marvel one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
Which makes sense. It's a very easy game that you can essentially franchise out to make various versions of it.
Why not on Twitch mentioned Code Names, and they also said if Settlers of Catan starts fights and ends friendships / relationships, and then Aspen said if Catan ends friendships, it probably wasn't meant to be. And I would just like to say that I have friends that are real longtime friends of mine that it would hurt my heart to lose them from my life. That I'm not trying to play Catan with for both of our sakes. Not every one of your friends has the same level of competition, the same sort of like excitement for board games, and I can be competitive and then lose. And if I lose at Catan, it's gonna be fine. But also, there are some people that if you're really competitive, but you're a sore loser, that's not great. If you're not that competitive, but you don't like having someone else go, I don't know, let something like 2 wheat, 3 ore, eat that. That's a city, 10 points, out of here. If anyone in your life did that, like right in your 6 inches from your face, you know,
How did Renee take that?
it's not Renee. It's not Renee. No, I think there are a number of friends of mine that are like that. That you know,
he's saying you are like that. How did Renee handle you doing that to her?
I'm saying that Renee knows me well enough to know that that's just I think she's at a place where she could lose Catan, and you know we'd be okay. I'm not saying immediately, but in the same night. You know, I'm not saying that if someone, I don't know why I said I was a Freudian slip.
If someone.
I'm not saying that if somebody says, loser packs up the pieces, I'm not helping clean, that maybe she wouldn't be annoyed at whoever would do that at that moment. But Renee can deal with that, you know. It's also, by the way, this is true, and this is embarrassing. But one of the peak advantages of Catan on the Switch is twofold. One,
Nobody yell at?
well, so one is that if the AI does something that bleeps me over, I can get as mad as I need to at that AI because it doesn't have feelings, nor is it a real person. Yet.
Rude.
Yet.
The AI will remember this.
It's not a telltale game, so I'm safe.
It will remember what you said about it.
But I can say and think terrible things. Because if one of my friends puts a road where I want to go, and I say, go bleep yourself, you know, that's not kind. But if I say that to my TV screen and no one else is home other than the dog,
You're just a crazy person.
I'm just a crazy person. But the second part of that I think might be the embarrassing part of it is the fact that sometimes I will do that, you know, say or think something in the general direction of the AI board game player. And then I will have the thought of, I am currently really mad at code, at ones and zeros.
Yep.
I am mad at an artificial board game intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And then that ends up becoming a me problem. Because that's not something that I necessarily want to be on a regular basis, right? It's a balance, it's a challenge, you know?
Sometimes you need to let your anger out, and you can do that through a video game. You're not really mad at the game. It's just the thing that's taking the brunt of your feelings.
No,
And better
sometimes
that-
I'm mad at the game.
Well,
Sometimes
yeah,
I'm mad at the game.
But it's better that than Renee. So yelling at Renee, you yell at a TV screen.
And then that, you know, I feel like I can, you know, right?
Yeah.
It's not, I don't have to repress anything, because I can yell at Gandalf or whatever the name of the AI is. It's not
Yeah.
Gandalf, but it's something like that.
You know there's a Game of Thrones version of Settlers of Catan, right?
No,
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah. It's on Amazon.
Game of Thrones Catan.
I've seen it at, like, bookstores and stuff.
$40 makes me worried, actually, that maybe there's something that it's not fully Catan. I don't know. I will look into this.
No, I think it's a Catan, just Game of Thrones version. Because I think normal Catan's like $30.
Sometimes
35.
some versions of Catan don't have the movable hex pieces, like the expansions or I don't know. There are some little things, but it looks. I'm looking at it now, and it does look like they are like die cut pieces. There's the ice wall is on the board. There definitely.
That's cool.
Oh boy, I bet there are a couple little Game of Thrones tweaks to that are exciting. I am intrigued. I got a lot of board game tabs open on my computer right now, and that is making me a little nervous, just sort of for myself. I thought there was one other thing I was going to say, either about playing board games in general or specifically about the Catan Switch game.
Makes you smarter.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just know that my hobby right now is. Let me tell you. We need to get this break in. Whenever we come back, I'll explain why I'm like this.
At JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, at Not That Rudy, at Sports Radio 810. Just do it already. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
It's funny to everyone forever whenever you get given a PP up in a Pokemon game, right? Like, that never stops being funny for anybody else. Because it's been funny. That's what I'm saying. You go into our ads, you get some little PP up.
We have ads for that.
Yeah.
On Sports Radio 810, WHB.
I may have told this story across some form of radio at some point. I'm not sure. I may have even said it on AES. I may have said it recently. I don't know. But all this talk about Settlers of Catan and board games and all of that, I do feel the need to mention something that really strikes me as being very important to my origin story. And I remember really distinctly, I don't know how long ago it was. I mean, it's probably a good 10 years. So, I would have been probably, let's say 15, 16, 17, 18, somewhere in that range, when my family played the most Settlers of Catan. Played it pretty regularly. And at some point, I don't remember who had the idea, but at some point, we took a Burger King crown. I've definitely told this story somewhere.
You have.
I took a Burger King crown
Yeah, I remember.
and like unrolled it and then traced it onto some black like construction paper, which I then decorated. My brother might have helped. I'm not sure. My mom almost certainly did. We decorated the crown and had like a big C kind of at the top where the top jewel would be. I think it said on it probably either king or like King of Catan, Queen of Catan, something like that. At the very least, that's what we were forced to proclaim each other as after winning the game. And so one person would win. And my dad I inherited my volume. My volume is a genetic trait. So my dad wins and basically gives a Ric Flair kind of woo pretty much every time while wearing the crown. My mom wins it. Somehow it's actually worse because my mom's probably going to hear this. She won less often, right? Not by a ton, but like a little bit. So whenever she won, she made sure we all knew that she won. And I honestly don't remember what I did when I won. Probably because I won the least, maybe. I don't know.
You just blacked out and went into a rage.
But sometimes we would do like game and then dinner or dinner, game, and then something else. And the crown wearer, unless it got really toxic, would just wear that crown the rest of the day. It was not a put on, take it back off again thing. There was some power there. Hey, what do you want for dinner? Well, since I'm the King of Catan, and that's, I would say in a lot of ways, why I am the way that I am. No more AES tomorrow. Chiefs pre, I'll talk to you then. Bye, Mom.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.